Once again, I'd like to apologize for all the cancellations on tour dates. I am in production of Trip Flip, but I will be at the DC Improv October 24th through 27th. Today's guest, comedian Brandt Tobler. Go to BertCast.com. Get a shirt.
This is the Bertcast.
All right, we're recording. That is a dinkum system. These are the. I don't even have sponsors, but these are the things I will always be grateful for. Jordan Knox gave me Beats by Dre.
Nice.
Dr. Dre fucking took that. It's such a smart move, you know, because it's like everyone, like, it's so weird. Rappers get into weird shit like vitamin water and
make way more money off that shit. Than...
Fucking Beats by Dre. Those are really good fucking headsets.
Yeah.
And then those are dinkum systems. My buddy John Mans, he's one of our cameramen for Trip Flip. He makes those. They're fucking so great. They're so easy.
Yeah.
You put a GoPro on there, clamp it on. It's like, for anyone wondering what it looks like, it's just Google dinkum systems. And then Google John Mans. He's like a little bit of a player. In the man cave.
In the man cave.
It's a wreck. I'm so sorry. I
love it.
Normally there's fucking furniture out there, but like they stripped the entire house for this shoot tomorrow. So it's like fucking... It looks like a fucking production studio.
Yeah, it looks official today.
There's a green screen right there. That goes up tomorrow.
I've always wondered what the man cave looked like. And
part
of
it sucks because you're getting the
still
fucking
see the walls and everything, but it is just a man cave set up to shoot for sure.
It's so funny. I got your text and it was like you know what I feel like you know what I feel like you are. I feel like you are me like 7 years ago. Does that make sense?
Trust me, I get it all the time. Well, the funny thing is, before I even met you, I was opening for Segura, and then I was telling these stories, and he's like, yo, you got to meet Bert Kreischer. You got to meet Bert Kreischer. He's telling me that the whole week, and I don't know if you remember, but the first time I met you, we were like in the green room, and we were both just talking, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, you're that guy. And I was like, holy shit, you're that guy.
Yeah, that's fucking right.
And then we traded stories for like an hour. And now whenever I tell my stories, people are like, do you know Bert Kreischer? I'm like, of course I did.
What was the fucking... I totally remember that now. I remember, Joaquin and
Matt.
And Matt, I think Matt had Bell's palsy at the time.
Yeah, and he would wear these sunglasses to try to hide it.
And he was like, yeah, like I think Matt's Mexican, but he's like, this is the way I remember stories. I remember stories so fucking bad. But Matt was like, my grandmother's said that if you sleep with a draft on your face, you get Bell's palsy. And fucking shit, that has scared me. I think about that more often.
Well, you said that on a podcast the other day, and I was laying in bed in my hot ass house because we don't have any AC. And I had that fan, and I was like, oh, shit, I don't want half my face.
I was just fucking... I think of that. It's funny the little things you remember. Like, I remember that. You know what's so funny? I don't even remember any of the stories you've told me. So I'm, like, dying to hear any of them all over again. All I remember is Brandt and I worked... For those of you who don't know who I'm talking to, it's Brandt Tobler. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
I've been saying Matt Munster, who on DIY Networks, and it's Minster. This whole time I've been calling him Matt Munster, like the cheese. And someone was like, you're saying his name wrong. And I was like, fuck. So Brandt and I used to work in Vegas every fucking time, and we just got along very well. And it was like one of those perfect, like one of those things that made the weekend better is I was like, oh, fuck, yeah, Brandt will be there. And I'll tell you this is the one memory that sticks in my head every time I think of you is that time we tried to catch the lobsters in the with the claw. They had that game that you pick stuffed animals, but they also had it with lobsters, and we must have dropped fucking $50 on those fucking lobsters.
Well, I remember that, and you were and you were going to go on Letterman, and you were debating forever if you should just come out and take your shirt off. I don't know if you remember that, because you were like, I think I'm going to do a Letterman set, and I was like, and you're like, do I just come out and take my shirt off? And I was like, well, I don't know, but part of me is like, fuck it, no one's ever done that. That
would be fucking awesome.
And then the other thing, we bet, because you didn't really know how to gamble, and we bet like a 17 parlay for like $50, and we almost hit it. I tell that story, and they're like, "Well, you and Bert are probably the two luckiest fuckers."
Oh, I definitely am one of the luckiest fucking men alive.
Trust me, I'm as lucky as it gets. So I tell them that story. I was like, "We put together like a 17 parlay for like $50." And I remember we were going to win like 20,000. It came down to like one game, and
God.
then you fell in love with that lesbian band. Remember when we were?
Shit! The coat hangers.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I totally remember that.
We were in that shitty bar way down there, and I remember telling you this is where they filmed First 48.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, we got to turn around.
God. Oh, the fucking coat hangers. I'll tell you right now. Google the coat hangers. They are sexy. They are not fans of guys like me and Brandt.
No.
Like we went to their show and I want to say I was wearing a fanny pack or something.
Yeah.
We just did not fit in. And Matt and Joaquin were with us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we were in the beauty bar down there, and it was just it's like a little dive bar, and there was a little show, and we came in and we were half drunk anyway, and you were like in Bert mode, like, I love this band I'm in. You were like
Fucking
Googling them the next day, and they were just like, okay.
They gambled with us, I think.
Yeah.
Or they gambled at the table we gambled at.
Yeah.
And I remember that night, at the very end of the night, I put $10 on 11 right before I went to bed, and it hit. I went,
yeah, I was like, fuck.
fucking.
And that was when you were in your phase of doing push-ups all the time, too. You remember that? And you'd
yes.
just get drunk as shit, and then you're like, and you'd be like, I did 100 push-ups. Like, how the fuck did you go up there and do it? I barely got to my room, and you're like, yeah, I chopped out 100 right before I went to bed. I was like,
God, this to put it in perspective, this is not the Vegas you're thinking of.
yeah.
Like when we're telling these stories, this is the Strip. Not the
no, we're
Strip.
down on Fremont Street.
Down on Fremont Street where it's light 100. I remember I used to do that club, I feel like, all the time.
Yeah.
I
They love
I
you.
still love Joaquin and Matt.
They love you.
We had money problems at one point, but I never, like, not that I didn't care, but I do care because that's not how it's supposed to work, but it didn't. I understood they were trying to run a business and that it was tough, and it's like, yeah, I totally get it. I fucking love those guys.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to call them and tell them
They're
that.
good dudes, and they always talk about if I ever see you, and I know you were like their favorite, but they did fall on money problems, and then they had to pick. I think part of it was that you were pretty much getting out of their price range.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, fuck it, we'll just pay him later because we're probably never going to get him anyway. And then guys like me, they used all the time, are like, and then they still didn't pay me for a long time, but I think they got it all back together. But they definitely.
Yeah, I heard they didn't, and Joaquin reached out to me on Facebook and was like, was like, hey, we got money now. I want to give you that money that I owe you, and I was like, don't worry about it. Yeah. I'm not that I don't need it, but I totally get it. I can't imagine trying to fucking run a comedy club, and I mean those shows were fucking. That was a fun fucking place though.
It was a lot of fun, man. It was just a whole different side of Vegas.
What was it? And yes, everyone, I'm coughing. Don't fucking text me and be like, you need to get that checked out. I'm fucking tired of that. Brian Redband smoked cigarettes all day yesterday next to me, and I have asthma, and so it kicks in, and my allergies are going fucking nuts. Ugh. So, but that was that was like, I don't even think I was doing Bert the Conqueror yet. No, you were.
I think it was right before Bert the Conqueror, because it was before you did the sky jump.
Yeah,
because I remember you're like, you know what, I'll be back. We finished up, and you're like, I'll be back in probably like a month. You know what? It was actually maybe even way before that. I don't think you were doing. It was before Bert the Conqueror, actually.
Really?
That was a while ago because they've moved clubs since then.
I didn't even come close to telling any stories on stage.
No, not much. You tell the bear story a little.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You know how I know it's a long time ago because you told me that Tracy Morgan story way before all the other stuff happened.
Yeah.
And I used to tell that story. I was like, my buddy Bert told me this fucking crazy story. So that was way before all the other stuff.
God dang it.
So it was a long time
ago. That's way before. That's like fucking. That's got to be like 7 years now.
Yeah, it might have been because it was. Yeah,
I'm sure it was.
You told that story in the green room, and I don't know if it's. I think it was back in your dick out when people came in the green room. I don't know if you still do that.
I don't do that anymore.
So if that dates it, walking in the green room, you just be standing there like, "What's up?" But no, I remember that's the one thing. I remember you telling that Tracy Morgan story to me, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And you were telling the bear story a lot then.
Yeah, I'd been telling that Tracy Morgan story for like fucking 13. Like, I mean, it happened 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was 26. I'm 40 now.
Yeah,
and,
but I mean that's before on the internet everything went crazy. So that's how I know it's pretty dated because it was pre-podcast world.
Yeah, those were so much fucking fun times. I remember Segura's like, you got to meet Brandt.
Well, Tom,
He's
when he told me,
the only person that has stories better than you, and I was like, shut the fuck up. And then what's so funny? Someone like I texted you like this weekend. I was like, hey, let's podcast Monday because I knew like I wasn't gonna be beat Monday, and I'm so behind on fucking uploading podcasts.
Yeah.
And I texted you, and then during this weekend, someone said, "You know who you got to have in your podcast?" One of the people just walking by at the shows, and I was like, "Who?" And they're like, "Brandt." And he was like, he was on the Crab Feast, and it was their fucking best episode. And I was like, well, that's not hard because that's not a good show. But no, I'm kidding. Fuck the Crab Feast. I love those guys.
Yeah, they were good to me. And I did Tom's podcast not too long ago, and they were like, with that, it just came full circle because it was crazy when Tom was telling me these stories, and then no one, then when I tell the stories, they always say, one dude calls me the micro machine.
The micro machine?
Yeah, like the machine and then the micro machine.
Wait, what do you think? So I always try to analyze why someone accrues good stories. Like I was sitting on stage last night, and I was just telling stories. I was like, I'm like my third story, and I'm like, these all sound extremely unbelievable. Like I understand if there's a wife that goes to the show with her husband and goes, he's making them up. First of all, it's so frustrating.
The opposite of what I get is the dude whose chick's listening to the story, and I can hear the dude going, "That's fake. It's not real. It's not." I'm like, these are real stories, and some of them are very vulnerable. Like I wouldn't brag about. It's not bragging some of this shit, but that's what I've been happening on the road is I get that dude that's like, "No, those aren't real stories, man." I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I never get the guy for some reason. It's always like the wife, like that goes. He's got to be making those up, and you're like, and there's no way I can verify anything. I mean, all I can say is go to my Facebook page, look at the people that were on that Russian mob trip have written since and been like 100% true. That's all I can say. But it's like, what do you think it is about you that gets amazing stories?
Well, I think part of it was when I started. Well, I worked as a runner in Vegas, and so when I was like 22, I got this job where I just run up and down the strip betting sports, and I carried so much money. I'd carry like $100,000 cash every day, so I got this confidence where I could just do whatever I wanted, and that's where a lot of the stories came from because I literally felt I was invincible. And then once they started going, then it was just like. Then they just now it's just like I live my life for podcast stories kind of because I fucking love.
What's the one? Okay, so I'll say a story I have because I'd say if they're listening to this podcast they're familiar with my stories, and then you give me the Brandt equivalent. Okay. So like I'm not going to go with my machine story. I'm going to say what's your equivalent of my fighting a bear story? Like
I don't
like not even topic wise. I'm just saying good, kind of tight, good ending. Well,
the story I tell now that I actually close with a lot is when I was in the height of the gambling. I had all this money. I was gambling at the Imperial Palace, this shitty casino in the middle. And I was winning. I was playing roulette, and I started winning. I bought in for like $100, and I was up like $1,800. And the pit boss came over and started kind of giving me a problem because we were cussing and just having fun. So then it spiraled out of control to where the other pit bosses came over, and not the other pit boss, security came, and of course like 10 security guards come over. And like I tell it on stage, is that there was one fucking awful head of security that they called the sergeant, and he had my ID, and he saw I was from Wyoming and everything. So he came over and he tried to be a jokester, and he was like, because they were mad at me for cursing in front of a woman in the casino. So he was like, hey, I don't know how you talk to your little sheep girlfriend in Wyoming, but you're not going to say shit in front of women in my casino. And all the little security guards laughed. And I was with two of my comic buddies at the time. And I was like, you know what, sir? I never like to curse in front of women. But I do know a group of women that curse every single morning. It's your mothers when they wake up and go, my son is a 47-year-old security guard in Las Vegas. Shit. Now So now my guys start laughing, and he's like, all right, you're fucking out of here. But if when security comes in, a crowd forms. And like I'm a performer, so I see a crowd. I'm like, fuck it, it's showtime. Yeah. So I looked at my buddy. I'm like, watch this. I didn't know what I was going to do because I was wasted. And so I'm walking back by the roulette table where the whole thing started. And the pit boss is just kind of sitting there looking at me with like a smirk on his face like he'd won. And I was like, fuck this. And I went back to that roulette table. And as I'm walking by, in front of the roulette table, there's like $100,000 of chips. I just reach in, fuck it, don't grab the chips. I stop the wheel while it's spinning, and I pull the roulette ball out right in the middle of the casino, right? Casino just goes dead. Everyone's just staring at me, like I'm holding a fucking time bomb. And like I say, like it's like when you're a little kid, if you can't play, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Yeah.
Then I realized I don't fucking want a roulette ball. And out of the corner of my eye, now I see the pit boss looking all weird, and I just reared back and I threw that roulette ball at him as hard as I fucking could, right? Hit him right in the chest. Just get clobbered by casino security. They tackle me, and they take me up to casino jail. So I'm sitting in casino jail just talking shit to them because I fucking hate security guards. But then the real cops come, and like I never fuck with real cops. And so the cops are like, we'll take you from here. And I was like, shit, I'm going to be in trouble. I've never been to jail. So they walk me down this long hallway, and I get in the elevator. I'm in real handcuffs, and I'm like, I'm fucked. And
this got real.
Yeah, it got really real, and I'm scared, And I went from being a badass talking all this shit, and then right when we came down, the cop gave me a ticket. And before he gave me a ticket, he just turns to me and he's like, yo, I've been doing this job 17 years, and that is the greatest fucking story I've ever heard. So he gives me a ticket, and he goes, don't worry about this ticket because we're not going to show up for court, and the casino can't pay all those people to go to court. Just don't do it again. So once I got away with that, then I knew hell broke loose.
Then that's when you had the fucking ticket to do anything.
And I knew I could do anything, and nobody could fuck with me at the time because I was betting so much money. I was like that douche that would go, do you know who I am? Because I looked young, and that's like my pet peeve. Like if I'm 25 and someone's 45, we're still fucking grown-ass men. Treat us the same, you know what I mean? But those security guards are just fat pieces of shit, and they'd always come fuck with me. So they would bother me, and then I would throw a scene, and then the casino would go, well, this is like one of our top gamblers. We can't fuck with him.
How did you get into gambling?
So I was working. It was just a miracle, really. My dad was in prison the whole time I was a kid. So my dad got out of prison.
Wait, what was your dad in prison for?
Just like drugs, moving cocaine and shit. So he was in and out of prison, but he was in like real prison in like Leavenworth and shit.
Holy shit.
So he was in
by
prison.
the way, I just drove a motorcycle through Wyoming.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about you the whole time. I was like, fucking so pretty up there.
It's so
I remember
beautiful.
you telling me how fucking pretty it is.
Beautiful there. The people are the best. So we grew up in Wyoming. My dad would move coke like all along Nebraska. He was in the railroad to start, and then he got out of it and was like a bookie and a drug dealer. And then so he got busted like moving cocaine when I was like 5. So then my dad goes to prison. My mom tells me he's in college this whole time. So I think he's in college. And,
he was on my program in college. He's in the fucking 9-year program.
Yeah, with a few visits. So he would go. My dad would actually go in and out of prison. I saw him like maybe every 3 or 4 years.
Do you have a relationship with him now?
No, I'll tell you what happened. That's when it gets bad. That's probably my machine story.
Really?
So I'll just give you the quick version. So my dad gets out of prison. I'm going to college in Phoenix. And he sends me a letter at the time. He goes, I'll be at this airport. Come see me. So I go to the airport to see my dad, which was the weirdest thing because I didn't know what my dad looked like. I hadn't seen him for so long.
Yeah.
So I was literally walking around the airport, like peeking around bars and shit. Like, is that my dad? Is that my dad?
Looking for grown men to make eye contact with you.
And then I see him. Then it's obviously I knew it was my dad once I saw him. So I give him a hug, and my dad's just like this charming guy, and he's like, he was going to Vegas. He somehow had like a cocktail waitress girlfriend, so he's moving to Vegas. Now I'm in college, in junior college in Arizona, and I was like, I didn't like college anyway. So me and 2 of my buddies are like, fuck it, we're moving to Vegas. We wanted to be pirates on the pirate ship at Treasure Island. You ever seen that where they do the fucking?
What an odd...
That was our goal. We're like, fuck, that'd be the greatest job in the world. So we moved to Vegas to be pirates and live with my dad. So I get to Vegas. I'm living in a trailer with my dad, his girlfriend, like her 3 kids, and 3 of us, just in this shitty ass trailer. But it was the funnest time of my life, and I'm having this relationship with my dad. Everything's good. Well, my 2 friends move home. I'm about to move home. I'm working in this shitty ass casino, like that you wouldn't even know, way off the strip, counting money at night from like 12 to 8. Just a miserable fucking job. And I have a girlfriend I'm in love with back in Wyoming. I'm about to move home, but I've been playing basketball at this gym, and it was like this high-end gym. It was the only gym by my house, so I was paying like $100 a month to go there, which was luckily I had a credit card, and I kind of had figured out Vegas early, like it's all about who you know. And I met this dude, so he told me that he was a professional gambler on sports, and I was like, holy shit! And he was like the coolest guy at the gym. I was just kind of drawn to him anyway. So one day I go, hey, give me your plays. What should I bet? And he's like, all right, I'll tell you. He gave me 5 plays. He goes, bet these. And don't tell anyone I bet you. I told you. So I go bet these 5 games. I tell my dad. Of course, they all fucking lose. Just get destroyed. I bet all the money I have. So now I can't really go home, and I go back to the gym and I see that dude, and I know he feels bad. So he's like, you want a job? And I was like, nah, I'm gonna go home. He's like, just come to lunch with me, and we'll see. So I go to lunch with them, and then at the lunch, he's like, yo, did you want a job? And he explained it to me, and I was like, holy shit. So this other dude that was like a ex-Major League Baseball player at the gym who I always thought was also like the coolest dude was like going to be the guy that trained me. So we go out, we get in a BMW. I've never been in a BMW in my life. I'm like, holy shit, this is so cool. And we go down the strip. He gives me $20,000 cash. First bet of my life. He goes, go in there and bet Duke football. And I'll never forget at Bally's Casino. The most money I've ever had in my life is like maybe $800. Now I have $10,000 a brick in each pocket.
Holy shit.
He goes, go in there and bet Duke football. Now this is like...
No, wait, why can't they bet it?
Well, they do. They're set up. My boss is in an office with his partner and everything. They're in an office. Then they have us on the street. So they're betting all the offshore shit, and then we're running up and down the strip.
Oh, wait.
So,
hold on. Is this like... So this is... Wait. So this is obviously other people's money?
That I have is other people's money. And that's what everyone says, though. The thing is, though, but when I have it, it's my fucking... Everyone's like, that's other people's money, but when I have it, it's my money. Because if I don't have it, I fucking am responsible for it. You know what
exactly,
I mean?
yeah.
So I go in, and at the time, it's when Duke football is like never won a game, and he's like, go in there and bet this for $20,000. I'm like, why would we bet that? Well, they're never gonna win. And he's like, here's the one rule: don't ever fucking just always do what you're told. And I was like, all right. Went in, bet $20,000 on Duke football, like plus 34. They get boat race. They lose by like 49. My first bet loses. But then after that day, so then for the rest of the week, they train me. And then after like a week, they give me, I have my own bankroll. So I literally would have like 100,000 cash. So I'd go home to this trailer and fucking, like when you're a kid and you go trick-or-treating and then you come home and you lay out all your candy and you put it in different order. I would come home and do that with $100,000 and like put hundreds in my initials and stacks of 10. It was fucking the craziest. So I got this great job, and so essentially what we would do is like I'd have the Nextel. You remember those beep ones?
Yeah.
So that's what we worked with. So then if a game came across, they would be like Saints -7 go, or Saints -5, 6, or 7 go, or sometimes they would just go Saints go, and then that's when I knew there was like a big move. So then I kind of figured out when to bet for myself and everything. So I was making a shit ton of money. Now these guys are multi-millionaires.
And why? But I'm still stuck on the fact that why are they having you?
So they
do it
first
for
of all,
them?
they're like 45-year-old men and 50-year-old men that they're not running. They're millionaires. They're not running up and down the strip. And I would bust my ass.
Oh, so you're more like almost like a valet service for them.
Yeah. But and like they can bet more on the they can bet. Let's say if we want to get 100,000 down on a game, because they knew that we were the smart guys, so we'd only have limits. So like, let's say if I go into the Venetian, if you go into the Venetian, you could bet 50,000 on the Steelers. If I go in, I can maybe bet 10 because they know who we are. But we could get better lines. Like on the offshores, move faster and everything. So we just had an advantage. Or if we knew an injury or something, we would know it before the casino. So I'd run in there and I'd pop it. I go, if we knew like Roethlisberger was out, I'd run in there. I go, let me bet against the Steelers 20,000. And they'd give it to me, and then I'd pull the guy aside and say, hey, you might want to watch that game. Roethlisberger's down. So I'd always get my own bet first, and then we kind of had to deal with the casinos like that.
Yeah.
So that was my job. It's the greatest job in the world, and like I said, the story. So I was carrying all this money, and you just get a confidence because I just always have wads of cash, always hundreds, nothing less. So even if I'm at Arby's or something, I just pull out a wad of 5,000, and you just become the way people look at you. When I'm just a little kid from Wyoming at like 22, and then when I'm a kid pulling out $5,000 cash, it's just like. You could do anything, So
that's fucking insane.
It was fucking crazy. Best job in the world. So I'm making all this money. I couldn't dream of a better life. My boss is the greatest guy in the world. Just like a father figure to me. Just couldn't be better to me. And I'm still a kid from Wyoming. I was living in a town of like 123 people, coaching JV basketball before I moved to Vegas. And now I'm in like a $5 million mansion, fucking eating with Chris every other night. So I'm just fascinated by this life. Everything's going good. My little brother's living in Portland. He's just a stoner dude, dropped out of high school, followed the Grateful Dead, just a big heart, good dude. So I convince him to move to Vegas, and I get this house for me and my dad and my brother. We're going to, have a relationship like we should, because everything's going good with my dad. Everything's great. So my little brother moves down. We're living. Everything's good. My dad's on parole this whole time, so everything's straight. He's got to do drug testing and everything. My dad gets off parole, and it just starts to go downhill. And he starts hanging out with like little 20-year-old white gangster kids, just like the fucking worst thing in the world.
Really?
Because he's back on drugs, but he's kind of trying to hide it from us. And so it all comes to a head. I'm working college football Saturdays. I'd have to be down there like at 7 in the morning and bet all the way to like 7 at night.
Yeah.
So busting my ass. I work all day. I come home. I come to the house. My dad's there. I'm exhausted. I'm just like going to lay down and go to sleep. So I go to sleep. My little brother comes home, and he comes in, wakes me up. He's like, oh, shit, someone stole my money. My little brother had saved up like $350 to go see his girlfriend graduate college in Portland.
Yeah.
So he wakes me up. I get up, fucking freak out, run downstairs looking for my dad's car. Like, this motherfucker, one of these little kids stole my brother's shit. Then it hits me when I'm outside, like, oh, shit. I run back upstairs, look at my shit. My dad stole $80,000 of my money. So I'm fucking freaking out.
Up.
So it's my little brother's crying. Like, at the time, I'm like 23. My little brother's 21. I see my little brother just sitting there crying. I'm like, and I have to go answer to my boss, who is like my hero. I'd never want to disappoint him. And this is a lot of money, so I don't know what I'm going to do. So like an idiot, I come up with a plan. I go talk to my boss and everything, and I come up with a plan. My mom once told me that my dad's deathly allergic to penicillin, right? So I call my cousin, who's like a gangster in Phoenix, like a real gang member, and I call him up. I say, come up here, and he's the most loyal dude. If anything happened to me or my little brother, my cousin's always there. So we come up with this dumbass plan that we're going to put some penicillin in a Jamba Juice in a smoothie and then give it to my dad to try to kill my dad. So
Jesus Christ!
And people are like, but we're not like gangs. We're just Wyoming kids. That was our way of murder. So then I go, my cousin comes up from Phoenix. I'm like, you guys take care of this. I fly to Estes Park with my girlfriend. Like, you guys just call me, take care of this. I'm out of
Estes
it.
Park in Colorado?
In Colorado, yeah.
Oh, it was just there.
It's the most beautiful place at the Stanley. Yeah, we stayed at the Stanley.
Yeah,
so I'm at the Stanley saying, take care of this.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
And so my little brother and cousin, they get the smoothie. They try to give it to my dad. My dad won't take it. So then they get my dad trapped in the garage. They try to kill my dad with golf clubs. But my dad gets out and fucking gets away. And then I've never seen him or spoke to him since that day.
Seriously?
And it's probably like 13 years ago.
So wait, what happened with the money? Was your boss?
My boss was mad, but my boss had met my dad, and just in that business, they've been robbed a lot of times, and he just knew.
Yeah.
He knew I didn't do it. I mean, at that point, we literally like best friends. I think part of it was my dad was a little jealous of the relationship I had with my boss, because I just thought my boss, he's that dude. Like, he's like, when you go in a room and everyone, he's that dude with the stories, buying drinks. He was the coolest. So I think my dad was a little jealous about that, but. So then my boss, like, he understood, and then over time, I paid him back parts of it, but he was pretty cool about it. And then he kind of just took me in as like a son. And then after that, my brother left and went back to Portland, and then I pretty much lived with him. Well, we used to have these gambling houses that we would work out of, so we would just rent a house, and then that's where we would work. But I would live there, and everything would be under my name, and then they just come there and work out of it and bang their mistresses and do. It was just a house which was the coolest thing, because I just have this fucking thing, especially then when I was carrying all that money. I hated to be like disrespected.
Yeah.
And so
it's so funny because it's such a part of your personality I don't know, because like I only know you as a humble comic. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you telling me something. You were like, I have such a problem with security guards. Like, I have such a problem with, like, and you were like, there's a lot of places I can't go into. And you're like, and I remember going, like, I never saw any part of that on you.
Well, it's just, I feel like they're just bullies, I just hate that they think that they could talk to me just because I'm younger than them or something. They just like to bully people, and I fucking hate it. So, and that's the same thing when they weren't really bullying me. But my favorite part about renting a house, I'd go in there and I'd give them my credit, and they'd be like, you can't rent a house from us, because I was only like 23 at the time.
Yeah.
And then I'd go, well, how about this? How much is the house? They'd be like, well, it's $3,000 a month with a $3,000 security deposit. I'd be like, well, how about this? I'll just bring you cash for the whole year. I'll just come with $39,000. What do you think of that? And they'd be like, you got a house.
Shut the
all of a sudden
up.
you're cleared. So it was so cool, because then I didn't have any bills. I lived this life, and then my boss paid. Vegas mentality is, if you're the richest dude, you pay for everything. It's just a given. So like, if I'm with my bosses, I never pay anything. But then if I'm with the comics, I pay for everything. But he treated me so good. So then I just had this crazy life. And then that's where all the stories come from. And once I did that roulette ball, then I knew I was above, one of the other greatest times we did was we rented the little rascals, like old people drive or fat people, filled the basket up with beer and just cruised up and down the strip, right?
God, that seems like a fun fucking
Most
vacation.
pimp shit ever. You cruise into a bar, 3 people hop off, girls are just on it. Everything's great. We're having fun. We're at the Bellagio. My buddy rides it up an escalator, rides it. You know how like a roller coaster, obviously, you go, we ride it up there. And then I don't know why we did it, but then we were my buddy was going to try to ride it down. Yeah. All these people are at the bottom like, do it. And we're dumb drunk kids like, yeah. My buddy tries to ride it down. Fucking hits the brake, flips over the rascal.
Oh, fuck.
Lands on those
things are sharp as fuck.
Just has that shit imprinted in his hand, his ear. The rascal runs over him, has tire marks on his fucking thing. Rascal hits the bottom, blows up into a million pieces. My buddy just takes off. We yell at people to help us come bring him back down, get on the rascals. We take off, just leave the rascal. Like, fuck it. At that time, I was like, if I pay $3,000, I don't give a shit. Yeah. Whatever. We'll call it in stolen. We go to another bar. I was so obsessed with the rascals that I wanted to take it in the bar, and they wouldn't let me. I was like, I can't walk. I'm making up all these excuses. So I'm talking shit to these security guards. Like, fuck you guys. And I think I'm going to be able to drive off. So I don't know. It's such a dumbass idea. Like it's a Ferrari or something. And then I go to drive off, and they had taken my key out. Oh, so I was like, fuck. And they handcuffed me. And I have these great pictures of me handcuffed on a rascal outside of Harrah's.
Oh, that's fucking
Then I had
awesome.
to go, and I got kicked out of I'm kicked out of every casino.
What was the thing that got you out of that? Like that got you?
Well, here's how it all ended was because I was doing comedy. I had these legendary backyard shows, which you would have fucking loved. It started with Stanhope.
I almost want to say I saw one online.
Yeah. Well,
I saw a picture of one online.
Yeah, I had just started doing comedy, but I couldn't do comedy because they're like. I even had management a little bit, and they're like, "Well, we got a gig for you, and like Wisconsin pays like $300." I'm like, "Man, I was making $3,000-$4,000 a day."
Yeah,
a day, and I was just blowing it, right? So then
It's the most depressing thing, by the way, is when you do make money and you're young and you just tear through it. Like I look at like Aziz Ansari, and I know that I assume that everyone in his family is really intelligent because he's Indian. I assume they're all doctors, and that he's not the kind of kid. But I look at him and I go, "There's no way," because he's so young and he's had so many awesome opportunities that have panned out in such great success that he is living responsibly, because you just don't.
Well, I just didn't know, and that's the thing.
He's probably a bad example of that, but I don't know, I can't. There is no version of the Belushi anymore. It's like, and I'm not saying that, but it's like everyone that's young and famous right now is got bullied in high school. Yeah. So like there's no Belushi. But I'll tell you what, I was making a dickload of money when I was on the X show. I had deals, and I fucking tore through that cash. Like I tore through it. Like no one ever paid for anything. I had fucking great cars. I lived in Cecil B. DeMille's old house. Like I fucking lit that shit on fire. And there's no feeling like that.
Oh, there's nothing better.
But it's different to be 40 and make that money.
Well, now I wish I had that money, because then what happened was then I started working for these other dudes, and I was just robbing them like blind because they didn't really know what they were doing. So I had a scam where I was robbing them, and then they set me up actually, and it was almost over. And I was to the point where it was the day of. I told my best friend, "Yo, if I had to go in, they had set me up on this thing to see if I was stealing from them, and they kind of caught me in this thing. But it's a long story to get into. But they're like, all right, we'll think about it. You come in the morning, and you're either fired or you'll go to work. And if you're fired, then you'll have to go out, cash all your tickets and chips and everything in, and bring the money back to us, and you're done." So I told my best friend, "Yo, be ready tomorrow morning, because if I'm fired," I knew they were going to send me out with this fat dude, and the first casino we were at, I was just out. I was just going to take all the money, fucking have him pick me up at that casino, and just be in a sprint to cash everything before they got down the strip and try to find me. Then just get on a plane, move to Wyoming with like $250,000 and start my life. But it didn't happen. They let me keep my job. So, and then but in the old days, so I was making all that money, and I couldn't show it because my bosses knew what they paid me. So my money was just getting wasted on fucking $3,000 dinners and fucking just bullshit. So then I started dating this girl who was super rich.
Is this the chick I know?
Yeah, this is the one that you met. So then I started dating this girl who was super rich. So she was the perfect fucking alibi. So now I'm robbing these guys like $5,000-$6,000 a day, and my girlfriend's like lives in Barcelona. I'm like flying to Barcelona for the weekend, just living a fucking retarded life, right? anything you want. We would just wake up on a Thursday and go, what do you want to do? Let's go to Boston and see fucking James Taylor. Let's go to Milwaukee.
That is something I wish people go, if I won the lottery, we were talking about this the other day, and I was like, I'd try to cure a disease or something, or what I wish the only thing I wish everyone could have at one point in their life, and I had it, I don't have it anymore, but I had it when I was when I was younger, because I didn't have any responsibility, was that feeling of, let's go to, I remember saying to Leanne, let's go to Italy. She's like, when? I go, like, next week. And she goes, what? And we went to fucking Italy for New Year's Eve.
It's awesome.
And it was like, I had all this money, and I thought I was cut to 2 months before George is born. I am broke. I have not a fucking cent. I finally have responsibility in life, and I don't have any money to come on with it.
Yeah,
So,
I'll tell you how the story. Well, I'll tell you how it comes full circle. So then I'm blowing all that money, living the life. Like you said, I flew my girlfriend. We went to Paris for Valentine's Day. Just like what you're saying. So everything's good. I got like 50, 60,000 under my bed at my house, stacked. Everything's great. My bosses are like, yo, because they had invented a new computer like program for the football. Because these guys were like geniuses, like young geniuses. They're like, we're gonna make so much money next year. So in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna make so much money next year. So I'm still plowing through this money. So it's like June. We're getting ready for football. And we bet preseason. So I literally just have to get to August. Well, these guys are really good dudes, but they're like dorks, like computer nerds, can't get any pussy, right? So they fly to Thailand to get wives. One dude stays back and doesn't go for whatever reason, we'll never know. And he's like bipolar and has like a bad back, so he's taking all this weird medicine. Dude freaks out in the middle of the night. He's calling his mom and shit, freaks out. His mom gets worried, drives up from Phoenix, can't get in the house to see what he's doing or what's wrong with him, calls the police. The police come, bust down the doors,
shut up.
fucking find the dude dead in the pool. We have a basement in Vegas that we work out of, which no one has. They go down, confiscate everything. Had like $2.3 million in the house, 3 different safes. They take everything, right? Because they think we're bookies.
Yeah.
Confiscate everything. My bosses come back with their girls from Thailand.
Brand new wives,
limo to the fucking house, get to the house, front door's wide open. They're like, oh shit. They run inside. Everything's gone. They call the police and they're like, we think our friend got kidnapped and we got robbed. And they're like, your friend's dead and you can come down and see us tomorrow. They go down there, fucking kind of explain to them, but they still want to gamble. So then they call me like the next day. They're like, yo, it's over. Like, what do you mean? They're like, it's over. We're moving to Costa Rica tomorrow. And they fucking moved to Costa Rica the next day and it was over.
Holy shit!
That was it. And then I just woke up one day and it was over. And I'd been plowing through that money. I still probably had like 30 or 40, but it was just like that. It was done. And they were moved to Costa Rica, and I never talked to them again.
And then in a weird way, when you get out of that, you kind of are out of that.
All the way out of it. That was the end of it. I'd maxed out. I'd worked after my first boss. I worked for this other guy, and then I worked. But that was, and it's a dying business anyway. It's just more an online thing anyway. So officially, that was it. So then I was a comic, and then like you said, we talk about all this money. I was just blowing through all that money. And then one of my favorite stories, when it really hit me, one time Doug Benson calls me. I'm in Vegas, and he's like, Rogan left us tickets to the UFC, or left him tickets. He goes, you want to go? And I'm like, fuck, I want to go. I've got $8 to my name. I'm like, the fuck am I going to do? I mean, Benson's bringing me. I can't just show up with no money.
Yeah.
And I had that thought. I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just go to my bank, overdraw, just take out 200, whatever I got to do.
Yeah.
This is a fucking night. It's Joe Rogan and Benson. What am I not going to go? It's UFC. And I remember I took out that $200 because that's all it would let me take out. I knew I was going to have fines. I ride the bus down to fucking the MGM, and I'm on the bus with just shitty people going, I bet none of these people have $1,000 ticket to the MGM.
Yeah.
But I'm like, fuck it. We go. First thing we do, we walk in. It's me and Benson walk in. There's Red Band and his fucking hot porn star girl. And I'm a fan of Rogan and Red Band anyway. I'm like, oh, this is cool, Red Band. Turn around, Bill Burr's right there. Like, holy shit, Bill Burr's here. Turn to my right, fucking Ari Shaffir. Then I get a phone call. Someone's texting me, and I look down. I got a phone call. I didn't know who it was, so I deleted it. Then I get a text like, oh, motherfucker, you're not going to answer my call? I turn around, I look, it's fucking Ruben Paul and Russell Peters.
Holy shit.
So I'm like, this is the great, now I'm like, fuck it, this is my comedy dream anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like.
That's everyone's comedy dream.
Yeah, so I'm with all my heroes, and then that night we go out with Russell Peters, fucking.
I guarantee you he paid for fucking everything.
We went to the club at Encore at fucking, and me and Benson look like me and Benson do, I wear a hat, beard, and everything. We walk up to the front of the line, they're just looking at us like, are you guys out of your mind? And then Benson's like, oh, we're looking for Russell Peters. Like, oh, sorry. Come right in. We have a fucking table. It's right after the UFC fight. We have a table right next to the DJ. Behind us are like all the fighters from that night. And behind them are like Kevin Durant and James Harden. and Russell's just fucking holding court, buying everything. And that was like the first time, because you always hear these Russell stories about how famous he was. And that was the time I was like, holy shit, this dude's a fucking famous.
He's one of the nicest.
But that was the thing.
Dudes.
But that night was when I had no money, was way better than the nights when I fucking lost $3,000 at an Uncle Kracker concert or some shit.
At an Uncle Kracker, what a great fucking reference.
Oh, that's a true story. Fucking was brutal.
How'd you lose $3,000?
Fucking, my boss made me go to this Uncle Kracker concert. I worked for this other boss who would just make me do weird shit. And I was about to go home to Wyoming for Frontier Days, and I had 3,000.
What's Frontier Days?
It's a 10-day festival, country music, largest outdoor rodeo, just a party, you know?
Yeah.
And I was coming back, 3,000 cash, be a big shot. You know, that buys a lot of beer in Wyoming. And I didn't even want to fucking go.
That buys a lot of property in Wyoming.
I didn't even want to go to this concert. My boss was like, you got to go. I fucking go to this concert. And I spent like $80 on beer. And I was so obsessed with having $3,000. I don't know why, because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm like 25 at the time, 26. So as on my way downstairs, I'm like, I got to win this $100, you know, win this $80 back so I can get on the plane tomorrow with $3,000. So you can only guess how that went. Lose my first hand 100, I'll double down 200. Yeah. Double down. Then like the third hand, I get aces. Dealt ace, got a double, get a third ace. I literally lost 3,000. I remember I lost 3,000 in probably like 12 minutes. And I remember walking out of the fucking Barbary Coast just as a grown man, just fighting back tears, walking to my car like, motherfucker, that was $3,000.
That
all because of Uncle Kracker. I was so something I didn't even want to go to. I was so sick, man.
I remember I lost $600, and it's not a lot now comparatively speaking, but it was me, my mom, my sister, and my sister, and I took them to play blackjack. I was a big shot. First time the whole family's in Vegas, and I've been gambling since I was like 15. Because we used to go to the Bahamas, me and my buddy Blake with his dad, and we'd sneak in, we'd gamble, and until we got caught, but they didn't give a fuck. And so I'm a big shot. I've gambled a lot. I sit us all down to blackjack. I pull out $600. I put like $100 in front of everyone. I think I got like $2 left in my pocket, and my mom, I literally tears through the money. My mom and my sister tear through the money, and my other sisters being very cautious, but they go through it so quick. So I go back into my pocket, pull out another $100, put it in front of my mom and my sister for both of them, and I'm winning okay. But my mom, it's like my mom's trying to lose, and then all of a sudden she looks at me and she goes, "Wait, are we playing him?"
Oh my God!
I said, "Wait, who have you been playing?" She goes, "I've been playing everybody." No, we're just playing the guy in the fucking tux. And my mom's like, "Oh, that's a totally different game." I was like, "Motherfucker." But yeah, I remember losing that money, and then it was like, fuck, the whole weekend sucked. Then I was like,
being a big shot is so cool until you like get home and do damage control.
There's no one's really a big shot. I mean, I guess there are.
Well, there are, and there's dudes I know in life that I'm like, man, it's embarrassing how cheap you are. This is something I always talk about, and about like one of our celebrity friends, and I won't put him on blast on air.
Wait, tell me who. Oh, okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
My buddies go to dinner with. It's his sister's birthday, and they all go out to dinner at that nice Brazilian restaurant, and it's like broke comics and everyone's. So at the end of the bill, they just assume the multimillionaire is going to pick up the bill. But like most famous people, they just don't even have wallets because everything's always free.
Yeah.
So then at the end of the fucking meal, he's like, oh shit, I don't have my wallet. So all these guys have to scramble and pay like, 10% of their life savings to pay for this dinner that they just assumed.
Yeah.
But if you're famous, to pick up that tab is so much better than to have 10 people tell that story about how cheap you are. Like anyone that's cheap, that's famous, I think is a fucking idiot.
I started. Colin Quinn gave the speech at Montreal this year, and he said something like, I forget the words he used, but he was like, "Don't be chintzy." I think chintzy is the right word, but he's like, "Do you remember that cheapskate headliner you worked with? Well, you're now him." And I was like, and it really fucking struck me because it's so easy to be cheap. And it's like so easy just to be like you sell these T-shirts, you got all this cash in your pocket, and then be like, that's my cash, as opposed to pick up lunch for the feature, or like, and I think the other side of that coin is that I think a lot of times people think, like I know people think because I'm on Travel Channel I have a lot of money, but you're at my house, you've seen it. Yeah. I don't. Like it's cable. I'm definitely making more than if I was just doing the road. but I'm also still doing the road for a reason. So like, like it's not like I'm doing the road because I love comedy. Like, I mean, it is, I do, but I'm trying to fucking pay the bills. So like, but like, I wonder sometimes, like, it's interesting that picking up the bill. I always pick up drinks. Like
yeah. Well, I try to, especially if I'm out with someone and they're doing. I mean, it's just so much. I just feel better about it. I would hate to have that. Like, for instance, Carrot Top gets a shitty reputation. My buddy, my best friend, works at a restaurant in the Palms. He always tips him $100 on top of every single time, and that story goes through me. Now I tell it to you. Now you have a million.
Now there's fucking 100,000 people that
and
just
then there's other guys that I could say like that come in and just cheap them, and then that story travels. If you're like, I agree. Like, just because you're on TV doesn't mean you're rich. You know what I mean? So some people but the people that truly are rich that don't do it.
Yeah.
The PR from it is just so fucking bad. An extra $100 to not have 100 people tell a shitty story about you.
I was at lunch 2 days ago with Mike Merrifield. He was on my podcast. I'm going to release this one this next Tuesday. So it was the Tuesday before or the Monday before, really. But Mike, and I got recognized by the waitress, and the bill was $32. I'm gonna guess, and so I tipped her $8, and then I was like, but I already signed it. But that's how I'd regularly tip someone.
Of course.
That's how I'd just normally tip someone. But now I'm realizing I've been recognized, and she knows I'm on TV, and now I feel. But I'm not like I don't have like $100 to give her. But then I'm like, fuck. But I've already written it, so I'm like, shit. Which $8 is a good tip.
It's a great tip.
It's a great tip. But now I'm like, fuck. I go into my pocket, I pull out an extra $5 cash and leave it on there, and then I'm like, now I just look like a fucking now I look chintzy. Like, and here's an extra $5. Get yourself a soda. Like, and I'm like, son of a bitch. And I just started spiraling about it, and I was like, stop it. So then the next day I went in and I tipped her $10 on a $22 bill tip. But it's like, it's right. Tipping is like it really does. Fucking, I always leave $100 for the maid.
That stuff, it matters. I mean, like that $15, you don't think about it, but in the long run, that's a fan already that's just going to tell that story. I think if you really think about it long term, obviously you don't have to fucking be a baller and throw out hundreds and be retarded. Yeah. But I know once, and that's the thing that I think it's like you said about the headliners too. When you feature and shit, when I'm a headliner, like a big headliner, if I'm making money, because there's times I work with guys that make $15,000 and I make $500 as a feature. And I mean, they're not responsible to give me money, but like I love Hedberg was my favorite, and I'd always hear these stories about, yeah, man, Mitch would just throw me like $200 on the side and just say, which meant so much to people. So, and it's different too. You have a family and stuff, but for me, grinding it out and people that were features and go through it. You know, I've worked with guys that just kind of blew up and they didn't really. I don't think they know what a feature. They don't know what a feature. Yeah, so I don't really blame them. They're just like, whatever, man. I've had a YouTube video. And now I'm rich. But.
Yeah. This was the description I got from Colin Quinn and Norton. I talked to them at lunch one day. In Montreal, and I said, so what is the deal with tipping a feature? Like, what? Because I have done it and I have not done it. Like, I have done it, and their rule is my rule, kind of usually. Like, if you request a feature, then you should definitely tip them out. But like, if the club sets you up with the feature, you're not obligated to tip them out. And so I was like, okay, so that's always been my rule. But like, then I go, how much do I tip him? Like. I said to my wife, I had to run it by her because it's her money, and she was like, "Who the fuck are you giving money to?" I was like, "Well, you don't like there were times I don't want to get too into detail because it'll reflect directly on the exact people of my hit past, but." There are times I did not get tipped, and there are times I did get tipped, and getting tipped was a fucking treat.
Yeah,
I say, look, everything. I just got to tell the truth only, but everyone knows. I don't even want to fucking get into it, but it's fucking all this bullshit that it then turns into gossip and drama, and you're like, I don't even want to fucking deal with it. Like, I don't even want to fucking. There's so much shit that I don't talk about that makes me fucking crazy that I just am like, fuck. It's so much easier not to talk about things than to fucking talk about it, and then it's out there forever, and then you got to deal with it forever. So guess what? I apologize, everyone. If you want to know the story I was about to tell, come to my show. And I will tell you personally, but I'm not putting anything on a fucking podcast.
Well, I'll tell you a story. The other side of it was just someone doing it cool to me. Was I work Brad Garrett's club in Vegas, and he can't. He's the nicest guy. I don't know if you ever. He's the fucking best guy.
Yeah,
in the
I've
world.
heard nothing but really amazing. We were going to do something with him for Trip Flip, and I was kind of excited.
I've never met a nicer dude, and he comes to me before, and he's like, "Hey man, we got a guest, you know." So Jason Alexander just shows up at the show. He's like, "I'm gonna go me, and then Jason, and then you, Brandt. Is that cool?" And
Jason Alexander,
from Seinfeld,
Britney Spears' husband.
No.
Okay.
I wish. I could much rather follow him than the real Jason Alexander. So he just asked me that in the green room. It's like, is that okay with you? And I'm like, well, you're my boss. What am I going to say? No, I'm like. So they do this thing so Brad Garrett's out there, and he's just talking about, I used to be on the #1 TV show in the country, and the crowd's going crazy. And then Jason Alexander just busts out and goes, really? You were on the #1 TV show? And the crowd just goes fucking bonkers, right? So they banter back and forth for like 10 minutes, just destroy, hug each other, everything's great, and then they go, all right, we're bringing up the next comic.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
You know, and he brings me out, and the crowd just looks at me like fucking, they were expecting Cosby or something.
Yeah.
So I do the set and everything, and then we come off stage, and I'm sitting in the green room, and he just comes over to me and shakes my hand with $100 bill in it. He's like, hey man, you did a great job. Go get yourself something nice to eat tonight. And I was just like, holy shit, man.
Let me tell you something. Get me to that place where I've got money to give out, and I will fucking give it out.
Yeah, he does shit like that all the time. I mean, but it just made my, like you said, when you give a feature $100 or something, it means so much to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like when I feature a lot. I mean, I make $500, so that's like 20% more. It's like crazy how much that means.
It really does mean a lot, and it's like Yeah, I've got to step up my, and I say that what I need to do is I need to consolidate my road work, and I need to get it so that I'm always with the same people, because I not that I don't care, but I just don't have time to care. So like I'm going to fucking New Mexico Friday, and then I'll be gone for 2 weeks, and I just show up to a fucking club, and like I was just in Alaska. I was off the fucking grid for a week, and then I go to fucking sleep on a lighthouse, and then I show up to the Columbus Funny Bone. Thank God. Mike Merriweather's funny as shit. You ever met him?
No.
You'd like him. He's a fucking really good dude, and he's really funny. He was on my last podcast, but he was really funny.
Well, and the good clubs, they have an idea who to put with
Stroop,
who, you know what I mean?
Let me tell you something. Stroop can book fucking features. He knows who to put. Aaron can book. Like, you go to some clubs, and you're like, really? Like,
well, you probably don't have to worry about it that much anymore because you don't have to take the shitty clubs. You know what I mean? I don't think you really have to worry because a lot of these clubs are great. They take pride in what they're doing, and they're great. And then there's other ones that are fucking.
I've worked those clubs.
I can't wait to stick it to them one day if I ever even go back.
I don't have any club that I worked that I hate, that I like look back in anger with. There are some clubs that I still work that I had an unhealthy start with, but I feel like we got past it.
Yeah, because you're making them money.
It's funny. Once you make the money, they're a lot nicer.
Once you make money, then everything's different.
Once you make a club money, god damn, you're like, so that's what you guys were like.
Yeah, that's how you should be treated. But the problem is some of these clubs are doing it right, and they just treat you like talent no matter what level you are, and then you really appreciate those clubs. Then you go to these other ones, and they're just like, hey, man, don't get in the way of us selling chicken fingers.
Yeah.
It's a fucking, but I mean, it's a hard business, but it's the best.
Are you on the road a lot now?
Yeah, I've been opening for my buddy Jeff Dye a lot, and then I still go back to what I learned from Stanhope is I just book my own shows a lot on the road and just call a bar.
Doing that a lot now.
And so I think this podcast thing's changing everything, and the less you have to deal with bookers, the more I would prefer it, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean you're more of that. I always like that middleman, oddly enough, because I like the assurance of it.
Well, yeah, the structure's
like
better.
The structure of it of like. Listen, we got an offer from him, and then do you confirm? And then I take back, yes, I confirm. And then they're like, great. Who, like, will you please send us your fight info? Like, I love the structure of it because I'm so fucking chaotic. Every other.
Well, yeah, when I can get to that point, but I don't have a draw yet, so I just got to make it happen on my own.
That's a good way to go about it, man. I remember Gary Goldman and I were sitting at the Coffee Bean on Sunset. I'll never forget the conversation we had. Like, Dane was barely doing the road a little bit, like barely. And Gary and I were like, how do we get on the road? And we were sitting there like racking our brains. How do you get into those? Like, because our managers didn't give a fuck. Because back then the deal was, dude, get on a fucking sitcom. The road will show up. I remember Chris Rock telling me, and I don't know if Gary was there or it was Brian Scalaro. Chris Rock saying, dude, why would you ever want to be a feature? Just be a headliner. And I was like, that's great advice, Chris. Thanks, man. I don't want to be a feature. I just don't know how to be a headliner either.
Yeah.
And feature is the most accessible thing right now. It's not like my goal is to be a feature. And he was like, don't ever. And I remember Chris Rock saying, I never featured. I remember him telling me that. And I was like, it's like that advice you get from famous people when it's just such a fucking disconnect.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I really appreciate that advice. That's great. You know what? I'll never feature, and I'll just sit here and wait until one day I get discovered by Eddie Murphy, and I get put into his movies, and then I start my own movie career, and I get on SNL. How's that sound? Chris Rock is a very nice guy. I'm not shitting on Chris Rock. He's one of my heroes in the business. Like, literally, one of the 5 reasons I got into stand-up was that fucking Bring the Pain special.
Yeah,
and I fucking, and I know his brother and his cousin very well, but I'm telling you that when you get advice like that from a fucking famous person, and you're like, I appreciate that. I wish you could just lower your standard a tad bit and have a real conversation so you could tell me really what to do.
No, I agree. I don't. That's one of a kind.
Yeah.
It's like LeBron or someone giving advice.
It's like LeBron going,
dude, just go right to the pros. Why
don't you just
college?
dunk on him?
Yeah. Why don't you go right to the pros? Well, problem is no one's even recruiting me for college. So
Yeah.
how am I going to go right to the pros?
Yeah. I have a hard time with free throws, LeBron. That blows me away. But, I mean, he was very nice that night. I'll never forget that room. It was Andrew Dice Clay, Chris Rock, Louis Anderson, and Roseanne Barr. And I was just like, what the fuck? And we were back at the Comedy Store. This is when my goal was like, if I get into the Comedy Store. I'm so glad I didn't at the time. I'm so glad I didn't, because I would be a very different person now. I would have never had the path I have today. But I remember that time distinctly and going like, I want to get in here, and I was crushing in the original room, in the OR. I was destroying and so hard that like, I remember someone pulled me in. They're like, Mitzi needs to see you, and I was like, definitely. And I was like, in my head, I was like, bring her over to this room, and they were like, no, go to the open mic room where you do 2 minutes. I did 2 minutes there, and I was like, went fine, but it was 2 minutes in that room, and she was like, he still needs work, and I was like, oh, you are fucking out of touch. I will never work this club.
I go so back and forth with the store. Like, the process of getting in there sometimes is just like, but it's like it's part of it's like a museum to me. And for months I'll be like, I'm fascinated by this place. I want to be a part of this. It's a magical history place. It is. But then sometimes I'll go there and be like, this place is fucking negative. The energy's shitty. The process of just sitting in the back for 2 years so I can maybe get some guy to give me 145 spots. It's like, it just seems like so. I don't know if I'll ever figure out
It's a tad bit antiquated in the sense of, I'll tell you what it is. It's healthy for comics because comics need structure in the sense that they do want to feel like you earned it. They want, when you see someone jump up the charts, and I've only said this because I use his name, but I'm not saying that he didn't earn anything, but Aziz literally just skyrocketed to fame. He had and then start. I don't know if he did stand up first or whatnot, but there were a lot of comics, and I'm not myself, not anyone I know of, but I'm sure there were comics going like, he didn't earn that, he didn't do open mics with us, he didn't bark, how could he didn't work at the store, and the store offers that. It offers like, hey, look, there's a pecking order, and if you get in line, you can get up there, and some comics need that, but that's not this business.
But that's so like 1970s.
It's not. Yeah, it's not this business. It's like, fuck it. Why not have Aziz Ansari go and have his own fucking sitcom or his own movie or his own hit podcast because he's talented. People enjoy what he does. He doesn't need to fucking earn it. Dude, I've earned shit and then not got it. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, if anyone thinks this shit's fair, they're out of their mind.
Dude,
or anything's fair. I mean, people are always like, this isn't fair. He shouldn't have got that. I'm like, that's why I don't know why anyone teaches a comedy class or anything.
Dude, comedy classes are fucking ridiculous.
There's no fucking rules.
Fucking comedy classes are fucking ridiculous.
There is no rules. Anyone that tells me you can't do something on stage, I'd say you're crazy. People would say, you can't go up there and just take off your shirt and pound a Heineken. Every person in the world would say not to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
if you went to a comedy class and you did that, I almost want to go to a comedy class where the guy doesn't know who I am and then do like a 5-minute set where I do it shirtless. I mean, lately I've been doing a lot of my shows shirtless, which does not make sense,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But what happens is I take my shirt off, for everyone trying to whatever the fucking word is, I've had a couple glasses of wine. Dissect why I do that. Here's the reason. You get depressed on the road, and you're just like, this is going to be a long weekend. I'm going to do a lot of drinking. I'm not going to work out much. I'm not going to get much work done because it's comedy, and that's the way comedy works. And I'm going to have fun, but in order to have fun, I need to have a fun set. If I have a bad set, it's going to suck. So a lot of times what I do is I play music to cheer me up, and when I do, I get excited, and then I fucking rip my shirt off. Like this week, I came up to Miley Cyrus every fucking show except for one. I came up to Black Betty.
And it works, but that's the thing. I've had people say, "Oh, you can't wear a hat. You can't sit down. You can't."
People talk about not having a beard. They're like, "Get rid of the beard. People with beards aren't funny." Really? Yeah. Zach Galifianakis, one of the fucking funniest human beings I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah, more success than anyone. That's what I'm saying is like I don't think there is any rules to anything, especially the way with alternative comedy now. I mean, people that's what I just hate anyone.
I look at Brody Stevens. I will tell you, he is the biggest rule breaker. Like people go, like you'd tell a comic in fucking Tampa, hey man, don't mention the devil rays because when you go on the road, it's not going to work. But man, Brody does fucking very specific stuff to Tarzana, and I fucking laugh hysterically. And I did not grow up in Tarzana. I've never been to Tarzana, but like. Take the 13 bus. I love it. I fucking love that dude.
Anytime if I hear 818, I think Brody 818 for life.
I said it drop off the other day. They were like someone said something about we've been looking to buy a new house. We've been looking to never mind. Whatever. We've been looking into buying a new house. And so someone mentioned something about getting me to a realtor and what area are you looking in? And I said, 818 for life. I almost can see the hashtag. I fucking love Brody.
I love him. I can't. I tell people, I think he's an acquired taste, like for some people, but I think if you give him more than one time,
tongue tacos.
Oh, I just love it.
You respect people who order them, who get it,
yeah.
and you hope you get it also. Like when you order it, you're like, I hope it's as good as the last time I remember. I saw him light up. I never go to UCB. I never go to UCB unless I'm doing Doug's podcast. I don't do sets there. I wish I did, but I don't. I just don't because I don't do sets in the city, and it would be fucking hypocritical if
Yeah.
I just don't. I never work when I'm here, unless it's whatever. Oh, God, I'm fucking explaining myself so much. Is that exhausting? So anyway, I see Brody do a set there, and I'm telling you. Ari and I were in the back, and we were laughing so fucking hard. He lit the room on fire, and it was. I don't want it to change. I want it to be exactly that, and I want everyone to feel the joy I have in watching him do stand up.
Well, he goes back to my old rule. I love Hedberg more than anything, but if I meet someone and they're like Hedberg's all right, or if they like I don't really like Brody, I'm initially like. I'm probably not going to like you.
Yeah,
like
if you don't like Hedberg, I don't think you can get comedy.
Yeah, I don't. Well, that one's less and less. But when we're around other comics or just people are like, I don't really like Brody. I'm like, how do you not?
Yeah.
He just I can't watch him too much because it'll just take over my real life. I'd never do it. I don't think I can pull it off on stage. But man, if I see Brody like 3 nights in a row, my friends will be like, really, enough with the Brody talk.
Exactly. It's what. Wow, that's a really huge compliment to pay Brody because I do it too. I do it if I'm around Brody, I will start doing it. Like he came over one day and right when I got the man cave, I want to say, and came over to see it because he lived right down the street. And he left, and I was talking like him, and my wife's like, "Drop it."
I do it with excitement in my voice, just like he does. Confession time. Every time I do this podcast. I started off and I everything's the same except for there's a 30-second clip where I put in, hey, I'm still on the road this week. This. Today's guest, Brandt Tobler. Go to BertCast.com, get a shirt, and then I always want to go enjoy it. I always want to fucking say enjoy it, and I have said it
5 times at least and had to stop and redo it and go, fuck, I'm doing enjoy.
Yeah.
You want to do that. Attell's like that. Attell is someone that Tom Segura always says, him and Push have this puppies. Every time they say puppies, like, puppies. But my daughters will go, boogly, boogly, watch out, watch out. Did everyone get it that's going to get it? They don't even know what they're saying. They have no idea what they're saying. My wife will go, boogly, boogly, watch out. Like, we will quote Attell in my house. It's such a cool thing that my daughters are quoting maybe one of the greatest comics. One of the top, let's just say top 20 comics ever. Dave Attell's top 20.
He's great. I tell you, one of the most disappointing things in my life, and not for him, but I went and I saw him at the House of Blues in Vegas. Just destroyed. I've never seen anyone kill as much as he did. Packed. I mean, in that big room, too. No one took their eyes off him. Unbelievable. And I got to meet him afterwards, and it was just when he had stopped drinking, maybe like 2 weeks after. And I was just like, I just want to do a Jaeger shot with Attell so bad. And he's like, can't do it. I mean, coolest guy, fucking bought dinner for everyone. It's people always ask me, it's amazing. People always say, you meet your heroes, you don't do it, you'll be disappointed. I disagree in comedy.
I disagree in comedy 100%.
Every guy that I've ever met, I've never been disappointed one time. I mean, there's douchey comics, but none of them.
There's douchey comics, ones, but like my heroes, like Chris Rock, when I met him, he was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy. Chappelle, fucking the nicest fucking guy in the world. Attell, I'm sure I've told this, and if I haven't, I apologize. But I worked with Attell. This is how dedicated. This is how, like, people go, will you ever stop doing stand-up? And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? I love stand-up. I will never. Georgia was supposed to be born June 1st. And we had all were set for that, and we were broke. And I had set up work for the weekend after that, like the first weekend after that. And it was like June 9th, 10th, and 11th, and maybe 12th in Miami. And Erin had booked it for me, and she had got me to work with Dave Attell. That week was Dave Attell, the next week was Louis C.K., and the week after that was Daniel Tosh. Or maybe those two were flipped. So I was like, I was fucking pumped. Tosh was younger than me, had less credits than me, but his stand-up, in my opinion, me and Gary Goldman thought he was one of the funniest dudes we'd ever seen. And so I was like, I don't give a fuck that I'm featuring for Tosh. I want to work with him. I want to watch him work. I want to watch every one of his sets. So George's birth doesn't come on the 1st, and I start panicking. I'm like, I'm gonna miss my weekend with Attell with this fucking kid. So I'm like, fuck. So I go to the doctor. I'm like, how do we? And they're like, a lot of long walks. Try Mexican food. Leanne and I would walk from Wilshire to fucking Beverly to go get tacos, and I would load it up with spicy food for like 3 nights. And come June fucking 6th, I was like, hey, this kid needs to show up tomorrow. And they were like, we can induce. I go, we're inducing. We induced labor to have Georgia so I could work with Dave Attell. I fucking was like, we need to have this fucking kid. And I went, we had her. I fucking spent the night in the hospital, drove her home the next day. And that day I got on an airplane and went to fucking Miami to work with Dave Attell. And I'll never forget. He was like, congratulations. And I was like, huh. For what? Working with you or the kid? And he was the sweetest fucking dude in the world. He was not drinking much that week. He was sick. And he was like, the first night we hung out and I drank and he like left early and he was like, oh, I'm going to go to bed. And I was like, oh, all right, I'll see you later. And so then, Friday night comes and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get out early. And I remember, I'll never forget. He's like, don't worry. One night I'll definitely party with you. Like he knew the responsibility he had to have a drink with me. He knew that it was something something everyone wanted.
Of course.
And he was like, don't worry. And then Saturday night, he's like, all right, tonight's your night. Let's go. Like, and he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go because he was massively famous at the time. He was getting recognized everywhere. He couldn't have a moment alone. And he was just doing it for me. And I remember I remember being like, I'm hanging out with Attell. Like, it was the fucking greatest moment ever.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Well, I almost fucked up with one of my heroes. When I was dating Allie, we were in Vegas, and I got in a fight with Allie, and I was going to the comedy club. And, you know, comics, you always have your own booth, like where the comics sit. Yeah. So I come in the room at the Hard Rock. I don't know if you did that Hard Rock room. But anyway,
I think I did,
back
right?
corner where the comics sit.
Yeah.
I come around the corner. I see this pretty hot blonde, and then like a kind of tall dude in like a Hawaiian shirt with bleach blonde hair. And I'm fucking furious at my girlfriend. I'm like, I'm on a mission to go over there and fucking kick this asshole out of our fucking booth. And I'm on my way there, and I see the little door guy. I'm like, who the fuck is in our booth? Because I was just looking to take out my anger on someone. They're like, oh, that's Brian Regan. And I was like, hit the brakes.
Holy shit.
So then my whole life flipped from, holy shit, fuck my girlfriend. Brian Regan's here. I'm about to perform in front of Brian Regan. So do the show. Have you ever met Brian?
No.
Best dude in the world. So it's Tom Rhodes and Brian, and who I love Tom Rhodes too.
I love Tom Rhodes too.
So we do the show. Brian couldn't be nicer. The show ends. He's very very nice, complimentary about the show. And then we go out we drink. No one really recognizes him, because he never does a show in Vegas, which is his rule since he lives there. So no one recognizes him.
He lives in Vegas?
Yeah. So but he won't do any shows there. So we're hanging out, and he.
I wonder if anyone's hearing that helicopter that just went over us. We have the doors open to the man cave. The exhaust for the air conditioning is coming back into the room, and it would kill us. So
we're hanging out, and he's just talking comedy. Just the most humble, nice dude.
Do you want more wine?
Yeah, please.
Let me open up another bottle.
Just the most humble, nice dude, right? And so then my girl Allie comes. I'm like, fight over. Brian Regan's here. Come down here.
Fight over.
Yeah, this is like important. So we were hanging out, and Brian. At the end of the night, the girls like want to play roulette. He gives everyone $100, like 8 people, to go play roulette, and he's like, if you win over $100, just give me the $100 back. If you lose, don't worry about it. Which was awesome, because then all the girls went, and then I just got to sit there while they played roulette and talk to Brian Regan for like a half an hour, and just the most humble, nicest dude. Another crazy time, his wife calls me one time. We're in Vegas, and she's like, hey, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. Why? What's up? And he's like, she's like, hey, we want to come to your show. Is that cool? I'm like, of course. So I'm doing this show in Mandalay Bay, and so Brian and Kathleen come, and he's nice before, and I'll never forget. I'm standing on stage, and I'm looking directly down this path, and there's Brian Regan watching me and telling people around him to be quiet and shit. And the dude before me like bombed so bad. Just ate shit, and I was like, and this guy was kind of fucking with them. Big black guy in the crowd, was a little white dude, kind of just being a dick. I'm like, I'm gonna show Brian Regan how funny I am. I'm gonna come out and just fucking destroy this heckler and crush, So I come out, set goes great, fucking amazing. Watching Brian Regan watch me. We come around. I'm like, here's my big moment, Brian, and he's like, hey man, good set. You pandered a little, but good set. Just kind of joking with me, and I'm like, cool. And he goes, hey, where's that other kid? I'm like, what kid? It's me. You came to see me. Let's talk about me. He's like, where's that kid? I was like, the one before me. He goes, yeah, go get that kid, will you? And I was like, all right. So I go backstage. This kid just like pouting, sitting in the green room. I'm like, hey, come out here, man. He's like, I'm not fucking going anywhere. Come out here. Someone wants to talk to you. I fucking bring him out, introduce him to Brian. Brian just takes him on like a walk through the casino, talks to this dude for like 45 minutes, just telling him, hey, man, don't worry. Just the coolest fucking dude in the world. God. Then comes back over and just does the roulette thing again. He's just the most genuine. When you meet him, he won't. I always tell people, like, what's he like? I'm like, he's cool. He'll drink. He'll curse. He's on stage. He's got to sing, but off stage, he's a regular comic. But he'll talk about comedy with you forever.
That's all I give a fuck
about. But he'll never talk about himself. Just he'll deflect it. The second someone's like, "Oh man, you're like the best," he'll just be like, "Thanks." What's up with you?
God, it's genuine. So the opposite of me. You tell me you think I'm good, and we'll talk about that for fucking hours.
Nah, he is the best. I didn't realize how big he was till I went to a show in Colorado in this little town of Fort Collins. And he leaves backstage passes for us, so we go to find him. We go to find like a meet and greet area or whatever before the show. We can't find anything. Every room's just like empty. And this lady comes up and she's like, "Oh, you're the guys?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess we're the guys." So we go back and it's just Brian and like his kids and his opener and his manager, and they're just sitting
Who's his
there.
opener, his brother?
No, he uses like 4 different dudes and just rotates them. And so we go.
You got to work clean if you work with Brian.
Yeah. So we go back and just gives me a big hug. We sit and talk for like 15 minutes, and then this other couple comes back. This manager comes over and they're like, "Hey, Brian, this is the girl that wanted to write an article about you, but we obviously didn't need to. They just want to take a picture." And I was like, "Okay." They take a picture, and then I asked the manager, I was like, "Why didn't you write an article?" He's like, "We sold the show out 2 months. He sold the show out 2 months before the second it went up, so he doesn't have to do any media. He doesn't sell any merch. He literally just hangs out with his kids, walks off stage, murders to fucking 15-year-olds in the front row in BYU sweatshirts, fucking standing ovation, murders, gets right back on his bus, and fucking he had it all figured out." I was like, it just blew my mind that he didn't have to do any press, doesn't have to sell any merch, doesn't have to meet and greet. Not that, I mean, I love hanging out with fans and stuff.
Yeah.
And I see like Gabriel or something. The times I was with Gabriel, I was like,
Dude,
I see why he blew up.
Can I tell you something? Also, Gabriel Iglesias is one of the nicest guys I've ever fucking met.
The nicest. I got a chance to hang out with him for a little bit, and my buddy like did his social media and now kind of opens for him. So we drove to like some shitty ass town. I don't even remember where it was, where he was doing a secret show. These people lined up to see him at like midnight to get into this free secret show the next day. Gabriel bought all these donuts, DVDs, merch, drove up. He didn't have to be there. Drove up from wherever he lives, like Long Beach. Drove all the way up there, stood out there, took pictures, gave them all donuts, gave them all CDs, merch, just fucking.
He is. I met him at the Improv, and I'll tell you what. Look, I'll own that I'm probably a little bit of a piece of shit, only because I drink a lot, and I don't notice that the little thing makes the difference. You know, like people who don't drink, they're very conscious of how their behavior is affecting other people. I don't, because I'm not saying I'm a bad person, but I just don't pay attention, and my ego is involved. I'm like everyone else. I'm fucking regular, and then you meet someone like Gabriel, who when I met him, he did something very cool, which is like, first of all, I'll tell you what a clusterfuck of a human being I am. I happen to have whatever. I had gotten off the road that afternoon and then come home, and I still had my merch money in my hand, which was like, let's just make up a number.
Yeah.
But I'm only doing this so that you know how bad this was. $1,800 in 20s.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have that in my pocket. I go to the club. I'm drinking at the club with Nick Swardson.
I saw you that night.
I saw you that night. No, you know this exact fucking night. I think I even told you this that night.
Yeah, yeah.
And I met Gabriel, and I never met him.
Because he was so skinny.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was him when he came out.
And he was, and I said, "Hey, I'm Bert." And you know what he said, which really fucking was like, he was like, "Oh, I've heard of you. I know who you are."
Yeah.
And I was like, not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people do that.
I was sitting there watching, but I think it was genuine. Like,
But I had $1,800 in my hand as I was talking to him. So the whole fucking time it looks like I'm showing him how much money I have. So like I felt like such a douchebag. But he said that, and I went, "What a fucking really nice guy," because he doesn't have to say that. He doesn't have to say that he knows me. And there are a lot of dudes that you meet in this business that go, "Oh yeah, how you doing, man?"
Dude, I have a list. I laughed with my roommates the other time. I'm like, guess who I met for the 14th time tonight?
Yeah, I do meet a lot of people for the first time 14 times, only because I'm usually drunk. But yeah, Gabriel was like fucking really nice, and then really taught. We had a real conversation, and then I was like, wow, what a fucking really nice guy. He didn't have to be nice.
No,
he could have been a dick, and I would just been like, charge it. Tom Segura, charge it to the game.
Yeah. Well, I've seen at that improv bar when there's like little headliner, when guys are standing around like who's the bigger headliner, no one's going to approach the other one first. There's a lot of ego in this fucking game.
There's a lot
sure.
of ego, and I'll
which I think you have to have a little bit, but I think there's a difference between confidence and. Well, I'd say there's a lot of false ego in this game though too.
Dude, that's what it is. There's so much false ego.
Yeah.
There's so many people that believe they're great stand-ups because of one thing they did on TV or one thing they did in the past, and you're like, you're not that good. Like you very candidly, you're not that good. Go up on stage, prove it on stage. I remember watching people come off stage and be like, "Man, I fucking ripped that room," and I'd be like, "What fight were you looking at?" Because
I get into it on the internet a lot. Like, why do you post shit like that? Like, your heroes never do that. You never see. Anyone that gets on it, anyone that writes on social media, "Man, I fucking killed it tonight.
Yeah.
I crushed it." Like, why? I trust me, when we all do good, but the people I respect just go. I've seen people crush, and they'll say, "Hey, man, it's a great room. It was fun to. I love that
They're
club.
fucking on fire tonight."
Great crowd."
Yeah.
They never go, "I fucking just."
I'm not the kind of person. Here's my fault, but it's also what I will never change it. I will never tell you I killed. I will always think I will think I'm a hack. I will think I can do better. I'm so fucking. That's just my personality, and it's just because I don't like the way I sound. It's like stand up for me is like leaving a voicemail message, and I could hear it again. I'm gonna like, that sucked. I sound like an idiot. I'll do it again. But I do retweet positive shit on the internet because people go like, I won't retweet like sold out show and stuff because I'm very rarely sold out. But maybe I would if I did it. But I will I will retweet, like, if people go, Bert Kreischer killed it in Columbus. Because here's my theory. I don't like seeing negative stuff online. So, like, if people believe that's the reason, like, I had friends in the past who engaged on people that would hate on them, and they'd go back and forth.
Well, most celebrities do that. Or most celebrities do the opposite of what you do and just fucking retweet the hate.
And I go, don't do that, man. You're putting out fucking sour milk for kittens. Like, you gotta fucking put out what you want to get. I don't want to get negativity. I do not want that in my life.
Do you get a lot of negativity?
I don't get any.
Man, I got my first dose of it the other day. I don't know if I told you the story, but when we were at Captain Brian's, and they tell you this?
No, but or
it was probably online.
This is the second time Captain Brian's has come up on this podcast where people are like, that fucking room.
Well, that room sucks. And then we got in big trouble, and they wrote a big Deadspin article about it. Then Deadspin wrote about us. So me and Jeff Dyer down there at Captain Brian's. You know, and Captain Brian's cool, but it's a fucking seafood restaurant.
I love Brian, for the record.
Yeah, he was a great dude.
I love Brian, and I've had my hiccups in that room. I worked that room before there was a stage in it. So like everyone's like, "Oh, that room sucks." I'm like, "Yeah." Imagine what that room was like without a stage, when it was just a fucking mic stand in the corner. Like, that's when I worked that fucking room.
I would sit on stage. A couple times I ate it, and I would just sit on stage and go, I'm going to fucking punish this restaurant when I get off stage by ordering lobster. I would just eat my way out of depression. But so we do the rooms, and he hooked us up in this fucking sick penthouse.
I know the place.
Unbelievable. Yeah, a few people have stayed there.
Totally
so we're in that penthouse, and I'm with Jeff Dye. You know Jeff Dye?
Not really, but
funny
I know
dude, good-looking dude. Chicks just come out in droves for him, right? So we're having parties in this thing.
The only thing I know about him is he's like really Christian, right?
He was. He's not.
Okay.
Not so much. But I mean, he's pretty.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. You're like, yeah, he still gets laid, but
he lives the life that most Christians don't. I'll say that. So we're at, a cool dude, one of my best friends. And so we're partying. So we go out. I don't know if you ever went out in that shitty town. It's just like an old, rich white people town.
Yeah.
So we go to a bar called Vanderjack's, called Vandy's. And it's the old kicker, Mike Vanderjack, for the Colts. I don't know if you remember this dude. But he would, dye his hair blonde. And he was pretty much a douche, right? It cost me a lot of money in Vegas. One time when I had, he shanked a kick. He's famous for shanking this kick, right?
Yeah.
So we go to his bar, and we're like, so when we get there, we're like, hey, where's Vanderjack at? We're like, we want to talk to this dude. And they're like, well, he can't really hang out here because there was like a 12-year-old kid that was heckling him when he was coaching soccer, and he choked this kid, and he got in big trouble. So they're telling the story, and we're like, God, this guy's a douche. And they're like, and his wife walked in and caught him fucking one of the waitresses, so he didn't really come around the bar. And we're like, God, this guy is such a douche. So me and Jeff just keep drinking more and more. Well, I'm a diehard Bronco fan, and then Vanderjack, when he was on the Colts, he mouthed off to fucking Peyton Manning, saying that it was kind of Peyton Manning's fault. So then there's a famous quote of Peyton Manning going, oh, that's just our kicker. He got all drunk and he got all liquored up and ran his mouth. So as the night went on, I was like, it'd be fucking funny to jack something out of Vanderjack's bar, And Jeff's like, Jeff is pretty Christian. He's never done anything bad. So he's like, all right, and like I said, I roll for podcast stories now, so I'm like, and I had no idea.
Roll for podcast stories.
Gonna happen.
Oh shit, that should be a shirt. I roll for podcast stories.
So he starts going around trying to get like a picture off the wall. Everything's screwed on pretty good. We have these girls in the car waiting for us. As we're walking out, there's 2 Pro Bowl jerseys hanging on the wall. One's Vanderjack's, one's Edgerrin James. Autographed, game-worn Pro Bowl jerseys. Big. I mean, I'll show you a picture after. I mean, like, the frame's almost as big as that TV. And I'm not lying. The
really?
TV, big. It's a big jersey frame.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, let's grab these. I touch them. I could see they're hanging on a string. I'm like, let's get them. He's like, all right, let's get them. We fucking grab these jerseys off the wall, the frames, run out, jam them in the car. They barely fit. We're like, holy shit. We go back to that penthouse, fucking bust open the frames, put on the jerseys. We're running around like football players.
Fuck up.
We made the Pro Bowl. Chicks are wearing them because they're long, like, we go to the hot tub and shit. Chicks come back wearing them naked. So everyone's just wearing these jerseys. Next night we have a big party. We meet these 5 girls from Chicago. They come over. Everyone's wearing them again. These jerseys are covered in like beer and fucking glitter and shit. Like a real party jerseys,
holy
right?
Shit.
So now it's Friday. We tell Captain Brian. We thought he'd think it's funny. We're like, yo, you know what we did? We jacked Vanderjack's jerseys. And he's like, I could tell right when Jeff told him, like, he didn't really think it was a good idea. And we do the shows. He doesn't say anything. Saturday morning, he calls us. He's like, yo, you guys got to take those jerseys back, man. You can't do this kind of shit. you know, and we're like, what? It was just fuck, it's Vanderjack. He's like, take him back. I live in this town, you know. I don't know if he's like trying to run for mayor or something. And I get it now. So I'm like, man, and Jeff's like, fuck that. We're not taking these back. Because this is like Jeff's first, like, really doing a bad thing.
His first felony.
He wants his, he wants these jerseys. I'm like, Jeff, fuck it, man. We got the story. Let's just take him back. We don't need to get in trouble. And he's like, fuck that. He's a snitch and all this. I talk him down.
Yeah.
So we take the jerseys back, load them in these frames, just throw them in the frames, right? Drive back to the club, set them over the balcony, like on the outside patio. At 10 in the morning, drive off, text Captain Brian, yo, jerseys are back, done deal, right? He's like, what jerseys? Everything's cool. Saturday night comes and goes. It's the last night. It's Sunday night. You know, we go out, we do the last shows, we get fucking wasted. We want to get some girls. It's our last night. They're like, there's no real bars going on except for Vandy's. We're like, well, we can't fucking go to Vandy's.
Yeah.
Then we have another drink. We're like, we're fucking going to Vandy's. So we go to Vandy's. We get there. It's Vandy's birthday. It's Vanderjack's birthday, right?
Shut up.
He's already gone. So we kind of come in slow pace. We don't want to, set the world on fire. And everyone's cool to us. No one's really saying anything. So we're just like, whatever. We're having a good time. We're drinking. We drink. We get fucked up. Then, about 1, I start looking at Jeff like, you know what we got to do. What would be more gangster than steal the jerseys, give them back, steal them again? He's like, for real. So we start, and at this point, there's only like one bartender, so we're kind of like going through the back, trying to find an office or figure out where it is. If I can open this like conference room, there's the jersey sitting on the floor. I just reach in, grab Vanderjack's, put up my shirt, duck out a side door, call Jeff like, yo, come outside. I got these girls waiting for us. He comes out. He sees the jersey. I'm like, here you go. He's like, yes, we got this fucking jersey. Go to the penthouse party one last time. We wake up. He has to fly to New York to do his MTV show. So he leaves at like 8 in the morning, takes off. Now, I got to meet him in Raleigh on like Thursday.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to squat in this fucking penthouse or just chill, do whatever I got to do till I go to North Carolina. Jeff's gone, takes the jerseys in New York. About 1 o'clock, I wake up. I got these messages. I call the dude back, this Captain Todd dude. He's like, yo, you got to get off the island. The police are looking for you. And I'm like, holy shit. Pack up my bags. I knew this girl in Naples. She had someone that was on the island pick me up, take me to Naples. So now we're getting all these calls from Vanderjack and the police like, yo, man, give me my jersey back. I know you guys took it. And we're like,
shut
fuck,
the fuck up.
And so then he's like, we're like, man, don't even worry about it, because at the time, Jeff's rep by Barry and by Barry Katz,
yeah.
and we figured we'll tell Barry to get this on Jay Moore's show and all this shit. But what we didn't know is the fucking Captain Brian called like our management and agents and shit and tried to get us in trouble to give the jerseys back.
Oh,
so now
shit.
Barry's all mad at him and Jeff's agents are all mad at him and shit. So then Vanderjack's calling us and we're like, fuck, man. We're like, don't worry. This is good press, Vanderjack. We'll give it back. Let's just have fun with it. And he starts getting mad. He's
Really?
like, fuck you guys. Give me back my jersey. And we're like, well, fuck you. We're never giving your jersey back, So then he's like, so then our lawyers are like, you got to give this jersey back. It's like a felony. So
Yeah.
then he writes up a contract saying we have to give the jersey back, pay him $1,000 for each frame, and we can't talk about it on stage or on a podcast or ever. And we fucking rip that up. We're like, we're comics. You can't censor us. It goes against everything we believe in. We rip up his contract. We're like, fuck you. We'll send you your jersey back. That's it. That's it. And he's like, then he called us back and he's like, all right, then I'm going to proceed with this. And then Jeff was like, so we ended up just sending the jersey back, paying him we had to end up having to pay him $2,700 and just let it go. And then we could talk about it. But
So to like put it back in frames and stuff?
yeah, so we could get a new frame or whatever. So then they put it on Deadspin, and Deadspin so then everyone on the internet just blasts us like, you guys are fucking assholes. You guys are pieces of shit. I mean, me and Jeff are both getting just trolled all day long.
Really?
And we're like, yeah, it was douchey. We're drunk. It was like a dumb thing.
It's the way, look, it's the fucking shrapnel that comes with living the life.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's got that one story where they fucking got hammered. But the thing is, like, if it happened yesterday, it's real close to everyone, and everyone's like, oh, you're a dick. 10 years from now, it's a fucking great story.
All my fans and everyone loves it.
Yeah.
People close to me, it's just the internet. And I'm like, last time you heard from this guy, he was choking a fucking 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And now you're acting, I'm an asshole that stole his jersey and gave it back.
He's got to love the fucking positive
Oh, yeah, he loved
spin.
it. Yeah. Well, the Deadspin writers hit me up and they're like, man, we've never seen a story go so bad like that.
Really?
And I'm like, hey, man, any press is good press. Just spell my name right. I don't give a fuck,
Yeah.
And they were like, so we didn't care. And then they're like,
My dad stole $80,000 from me. You think I give a fuck what
shit.
fucking some place kicker things about me?
I tried to pitch him my other story. Well, anyway, and then we were going to Tempe Improv that week, and we find out Vanderjack lives in Arizona now. And we were going to send him a message, invite him to the shows and shit. And then we're like, we should just leave this guy alone.
Yeah.
Deadspin's like, just get a picture with him and apologize. And we're like, we already said we're sorry. But we have these funny voicemails and texts from him.
Really?
Yeah. But then I tried to pitch him. I'll tell you my another craziest story. So I move out here, what we were talking about. This is last year. You move to LA, and I'm sure a lot of comics listen to this. And I don't know if it happened to you, but comics, like when you live out here and you're on the road, people are like, what's LA like? And you're like, man, it's fucking hard. You don't think you want to move to LA, but if you're a comic that lives like in the Midwest or something, you're like, well, yeah, it's hard for you, but I'm good, And I think that's how I felt like, oh yeah, it's hard. But then when I got out there,
I moved out here. I got $25,000 to move out here from the network that like a relocation fee. So I had all this fucking money. I was making. I'll tell you exactly how much I was making at the time because I thought it was a fucking dickload of money. I had a huge signing bonus or a huge development deal, and I was on a day and date show on the X show, and I was making $5,000 a week. And I was like, fucking, that was a lot. I remember me and my buddy Eddie Fernandez sat in the car, and Eddie was like, I remember Eddie going, you're doing fucking 26 weeks for your first order. And I remember we did the math and we were like, I'm fucking rich. And I was like, this is fucking amazing. But I'll tell you something, that didn't mean a fucking thing. You go into the clubs and you are not ready for it. Is fucking hard.
It's very hard. You don't
have any fucking friends.
You don't get
any
money.
The friends you do make are fucked up. The first few friends you make, you're like, I need to get these people out of my life. I remember I hung out with one of my friends that I'd known growing up, and I remember I was like, this is going to be great. I moved out. I'm like, I'm in. I love this city. We go to his place. He lives on Melrose, and I'll never forget, he invites a friend over, and they start smoking crack. And I'm like, this is not what I signed up. And they were like, do you want some? And part of me is like, I'm the party animal. But then the other part of me was like, but I don't smoke crack.
Yeah.
So I did not. I remember feeling like I got a contact buzz off of it because they were smoking in the same room I was in. Like, and I was just obsessive compulsive. And then the next morning, I walked literally right. They lived right off Melrose. I walked right out of there and down the street, and I ran into my ex-girlfriend from high school. She lived on that street, and I was like, and I walked right into her place, and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm home. But yeah, this town fucking knocks your dick in the dirt.
Yeah, so I'd been here like a year, and I was like, I'm fucked. I wasn't getting much road work. I'm obviously not making any money here. I didn't know what I was going to do. It's like August 25th. August 26th, I literally have like $17 in my account. That's it. And I'm fucked. And I'm going to have to pay rent on the 1st, so I didn't know what to do. Well, one of the gamblers I used to work for, I called him, and I was trying to figure out who he was going to bet because he always bets futures for the year, like this to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I came up with a plan, and I used to fuck this chick that ran the sports book at the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
So I said, who are you looking to bet? I can get you better odds. And he was like, I'm looking to get the Patriots at 3-1 to win the AFC. I was like, I could probably get you better odds. He's like, if you get me 4-1, I'll give you $400. If you give me 5-1, I'll give you $500. I was like, cool, let me call her and see. So I just call him back. I'm like, you got it. How much you want? He's like, let me get 7,000. I'm like, cool. I'll come to Vegas, pick up the money. It'll take me like a day. I'll bet it, and I'll give it back to you. So I drive out to Vegas. We fucking Photoshop a ticket, right? Make a fake ticket that says Patriots 5-1 for $7,000, right? Everything's cool. I'm going to give this guy the ticket. We're good. So then I get to Vegas, and I'm driving to meet him. I'm driving through Vegas. I'm supposed to meet him around 5. He calls me at like 2. He's like, yo, you think I could get 2 more thousand? I can get 9,000 on the Patriots? The more I think about it, this is a great bet. I want it. And I'm in the car going, fuck, man, I can't pay 7,000. Fuck it. I can't pay 9,000. Fuck it. Let's do it, right? So I call my roommate that photoshopped him for me, and he won't answer because he's a comic, and he's flying back. So he finally calls me back in Houston. He's like, what's the problem? And he's like, I need a new ticket. So he photoshops me a new ticket, makes it. I meet this dude in the parking lot. He gives me 9,000 fucking cash. And then I say, I'll bring the ticket to you tonight. Then I bring him the ticket, get 500. So I went from fucking $17 to now I have 9,500. Like I can survive in LA. So now I'm rooting. So now if the Patriots make the Super Bowl, I owe this guy 54,000, right? So I come back to LA, and a few people know about it, but the story starts to kind of go viral. Everyone knows about it, but I don't really want everyone to know about it, you know? Patriots come out, they're 1-2. I'm like, okay, I'm all right. Then Patriots start winning. Shit's going on.
Fuck.
Then the Broncos start winning. Well, I'm a diehard Broncos fan, so I'm like, okay, the Broncos will take care of this for me. So by the end, now the story's like fucking everybody knows about it. Anytime I go out, it's like the Machine story, but not. People are like, wait, you're that dude? I'm like, yeah, I'm that dude. And everyone's kind of joking about it. Well, then it comes down. So then I'm talking to the guy throughout the year, and he's like, yeah, I think the Patriots are going to do it. I'm like, yeah, I think you're good. So then it comes down to the playoffs, and the Houston's choke. So now the Patriots have a bye, and the Broncos have a bye. And this dude tells me, he goes, if the Patriots, if it's Patriots Broncos, I'll fly to Denver and watch the game. So in my head, I'm like, fuck it. If he flies to Denver to watch the game, I'll have my best friend Dupree break in his house, because this dude lives in Vegas. My best friend lives in Vegas. Break in the house, get the ticket back, because if the Patriots lose, if the Patriots win, I'm breaking the house, get the ticket back, and fucking So we're clear sailing. Broncos choke that game to the Ravens. Now I have nothing. So now the whole world knows, and it's Patriots versus Ravens. Patriots at home, like 10-point favorites. So I'm like a 10-point underdog with my life on the line. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Fuck.
Everyone in the world's calling me like, yo, where are you going to watch the game? I'm like, I'm out. So my buddy, it was his birthday. We went up to Big Bear, just like 6 of us. And so the day comes. My grandpa's about to die. My grandpa's old at the time. And I get a call. I'm thinking any time my grandpa can die. I get a call at like noon from my mom, like, call me immediately. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really going to be the worst day of my life. I call my mom back, and my mom's like, your grandpa just walked out of the house. We found him laying in the driveway. He's okay. He's in the hospital, but we don't know what happened. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And so we're just waiting for that game. And the whole time I'm singing, that song that it's like Swedish House Mafia, where they're like, don't you worry, child. I was just singing that the whole day. The Ravens got a plan for it. I'm just trying to convince myself we're all right. So we lock ourselves in the house. We start drinking. I'm like, there's only 6 of us. I'm getting a million texts. Everyone like, you ready? I'm like, whatever. So mid first quarter, I just put my phone away. I can't take this. People, just random numbers like, hey, man, I just want you to know I'm rooting for you. You don't know me. I'm sitting with Rory Scovel in San Francisco. Just crazy shit, right? So they're down 10-7 at halftime, and we were in a place like this, and I'm like, and everyone's just on pins and needles. And I stand up, and it's halftime, and I'm like, just believe, guys. We still got a shot. Everything's okay. As I'm giving this like fucking Lombardi speech, the TV's behind me, and I see people looking at it, and I turn around, and it says, Tom Brady is 64-0 at home with a halftime lead. And I'm just like,
shut the
oh
fuck
my
up.
God. So I go in this back room. I put my phone away. I'm like, I'm just going to put my phone away. I'm just going to sit down and ride it out. And thank God the Ravens came back, won the game, obviously. We go absolutely crazy, just fucking pouring beer, hugging, just crazy. I walk back to this back room, and I'm just by myself, and I just break down. I just start bawling. And I pick up my phone, 325 text messages from fucking everyone.
Are you serious?
Everyone that ever knew anything about it. And I dodged a bullet of, I would have owed $54,000.
Holy shit. So basically you took the guy's bet.
Yeah, I just really booked it.
You're like, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
You're good. And then
You're good.
And then he called me. So like a fucking idiot. Now I'm just hammered, right? So I leave a Facebook status just that I thought was vague that just said, hey, everybody that rolled with me, thank you so much. I had no idea, just like those on the inside I thought would get it.
Yeah.
So then on the bottoms, people are like, man, I was rooting for the Patriots so hard and all this shit. So then we drive back, and then it's Tuesday morning. I get a call. I'm laying in bed. I get a call from the dude. I see it on my caller ID. I'm laying there. I'm like, oh, shit. And I go to delete it. I don't. I answer it, and it answers. I just hang it up.
Yeah.
So then he starts calling me throughout the day, calling me, texting me. Call me back right now, or I'm going to I'll tell everyone what you did, whatever. And I'm like, man, what the fuck am I going to do? So then at like 6 o'clock, I called him back, and he's like, yo, what's up? I'm like, nothing, man. What's up? He's like, I saw your Facebook status. What's that all about? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, this Facebook status. It looks like you were rooting for the Patriots. And I was like, you know what? To be honest with you, I'm still a bookie. There's a ton of Boston guys out here. Like, I know you're going to give me a bonus if they won, but actually I won more money by having them lose. So no disrespect to you. I just got to root for my own money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like, all right. Well, just tell me this. Is that ticket real? Because part of me feels like that ticket's not real. It's like, no, it's real. He goes, so if I drive to Sunset Station right now, they'll tell me it's real. I was like, yeah, go right down there. They'll tell you it's real. He's like, all right. That's all I wanted to know. Then he hung up. And
He fucking lost.
And I never, he can't do, I mean, he lost.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I don't know what he's going to do. And I think he probably thought about it like, because I needed that. I don't know what, like I said, I'm the luckiest I was at that crossroads like, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. I know everything's coming together, but you just run out of money. Even just making I go on the road to try to just pay my rent here. People are like, what's LA like? I'm like,
I don't know.
I go.
I always text, I always go, God, I'd love to live in LA. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah, no shit.
But I'm never here. Like, I'm here for fucking 3 days, and I'm shooting. I'm shooting from 8 in the morning till 8 at night every day, and then I get on a plane. I go to New Mexico, and I tell you what. Now, one of the things that Travel Channel's done for me is that, god damn, I fucking love traveling now. Like, I really love going to see new places.
Well, but you hate flying though, still, right?
No, but I'm getting so much better with it. Like, I still drink, and I think I drink too much on planes personally. I mean, I don't think anyone would ever stop me lately. Lately, I've been really good on flights, but god damn, man, this Alaska and Portland trip we took really redefined how beautiful this fucking country is. Portland is one of the most beautiful fucking places I've ever been in my life. Alaska, the joke I made on stage in Alaska, because I did the show up there. Stan hooked me up with a show up there at Chilkoot Charlie's, and the joke I made was Alaska is like Colorado but with a big dick.
That's perfect.
Fucking, it really is. Wait, what was I going to say before that though? Yeah, I wish I lived here. I'm not here much.
I'm trying to
My buddy just took off, Tom. If anyone is a diehard podcast fan, Tom is Leily's son. Leily wrote the book When Heaven and Earth Changed Places. Oliver Stone optioned the rights, became the book Heaven and Earth that Tommy Lee Jones was in. She was on my podcast when my dad accidentally ate marijuana with Joey Diaz. Easter Sunday. It was a big podcast. I look at my numbers. But so Tom, we went over to his house. They just bought a dog. Tom's going to fucking England for a year.
Really?
Yeah, he's producing Mission Impossible 5. So he's fucking gone to. But it's so funny because I feel like I'm never here, and I feel like I'm cheap shorting my kids. Like they're like they never get to see their dad. And dude, every family in LA deals with it.
Yeah,
everyone in LA deals with it. There's so much of it. Of like just dads that have to travel for work. We're entertainers. My kids get it, and it's so funny because they look at it like we're talking to Tom's kids about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, dads travel. That's what they do. It's cool. We'll all hang out. You got a dog." Like my kids are totally cool about it, and they were like, "Yeah, we like." I got in the car and I said, "Just so you guys know, Tom's leaving for a year," and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know. It's not a big deal, Dad. Dads travel." And I was like, "Fuck." But yeah, it's
well, if your kids ever complain, just tell them they could have my dad. It could always be worse.
Christ. Holy shit.
It could always be worse.
It could. It's yeah. Fuck. Yeah, I guess dads do go to prison too.
He traveled for a little bit.
Yeah, he traveled. He was in college.
Yeah, he was. That's so funny. My mom told me that.
What's your mom like?
She's cool. I had a great stepdad. What's funny is the only time my dad ever came through for me was I had a great stepdad, and I was about to start junior high, and my stepdad wanted to adopt us, which I think is a really cool honor and really cool that he wanted to do that. But his last name is Huffendick, so I would have started junior high as Brandt Huffendick, which is the last thing I ever wanted.
I'm going to fucking cough myself into a coma.
So my dad threw a fit, of course, about that, and I thank God at the time because I didn't want to be Brandt Huffendick. Later in life, when my dad stole my identity and fucked up my credit.
You talk about that on stage at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, fuck, that's
I'm trying
so
to tell I'm working on a one-man show because some of it's just so dark.
I wish I had done that. I wish I had done a one-man show because I feel like I like the trajectory I've taken, but I think a one-man show would have been better for me in the large scope of things. I think writing a book was so fucking difficult, and it took so much out of me, and I felt I dealt with so much stress that I didn't need to deal with that I'm so fucking proud I did it. That I wrote it myself, that I didn't have a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
I wrote it myself, But a one-man show would have been just so much more user-friendly for me. Just do.
Well, that's what I'm going through. Well, I'm doing the dictation thing that you talk about.
Dragon Dictate.
So I've been as far as like a book.
You can't drink when you do it. That's the only problem. It never worked for me because I always was drinking when I was like, oh, now I feel like writing. And I'd be drunk and it never understood me. I talked to Fitzsimmons about it on his podcast.
I listened to you talk about that's what made me get it. But so I'm trying to work on the book, but I think the one man show is just the way to because I pitched it the other day about a TV show, and everyone's like, I think it's a TV show because it has seasons. I mean, I could tell you stories for days about my life, especially with my dad and everything. And plus, we can end it however we want. A funny story is one time I told my little sister. I was like, and she has a different dad, but and I think it creeped her out. I was like, if my dad really loved me, he would just get killed randomly in like a phone booth where there's like some reasonable doubt that maybe I did it, because it would be the perfect ending to my story. Yeah. For all the non-child support or anything. If he could do anything, was just have this kind of obscure death that I could maybe take credit for, but
yeah.
But I think the one-man show, I've been just writing it and working on it, but I can get away with a lot more because everyone's like, you should tell these stories on stage.
But
when I started talking about trying to kill my dad or some of this shit, they're like, because I have another crazy story about when I was a kid and my dad. So my dad is just such a fucking liar, and he would promise me all this crazy shit that he would like, he would, if I said I wanted some baseball cards, he would be like, I'll send you two cases of baseball cards. Have Cal Ripken deliver them. Just fucking shit. Yeah. My mom would cover them as much as she could, but then she eventually, my dad would just promise so much shit. So I'm like 12 years old. My brother's like 10. We'd come home every day and like sit in our front yard and steps waiting for this UPS man to bring the shit that my dad promised us. And then, of course, the UPS man would never bring us anything. So like a kid that just believes in their dad, I got it in my mind that the fucking UPS man was taking our shit home to his kids and not giving what my dad promised me. So me and my brother and two other neighborhood kids, I convinced them that the UPS man fucking is stealing our shit, and we stole these steak knives from this restaurant, and we were going to fucking follow the UPS man to his house, and then if we saw him and his kids like playing with our shit, we were going to fuck him. I mean, I was like a 12-year-old. Such a dumb plan at the time. So we did all that. We stole these steak knives. So we're riding around on our bikes with steak knives, which was probably one of the dumbest things ever.
Just danger-wise.
Yeah. Following the UPS man, which was easy because he'd stop like every 2 blocks, and then eventually we followed him right downtown. He parked his UPS truck, got in a green truck, and drove off, lost us after a block. But we had this fucking... But so then I think it's funny, and I say I was like the boy that cried Cal Ripken, because I would tell all the kids in my class, like, Cal Ripken's coming, and I tell these stories, which I think are funny, and then people are like... I got robbed at shotgun one time. Guy came right in my house, robbed me at shotgun, kidnapped me, put me in this back room, and said, if you move or call the police... If you sit here for 10 minutes, if you move or call the police, I'll come back and kill you. And I'm like, hey, man, on stage, I'm like, hey, you can, like, rob me, but you can't put me in timeout. That's like, fucking, come on, man, pick one or the other. So I tell him more, like, stage, but sometimes I get laughs, and sometimes I can see. One time a lady was just like, oh, my God, I feel bad for this guy. I could hear her say that.
It's hard because there's no reference point for them. So, like, a dude before you is talking about, like, jerking off in a mayonnaise jar, and then you go and you get serious. Like, I know that I've had that hiccup with my stories, is that I start telling a story and it's almost like they're out of left field. They're like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing now? Like,
well, I think they're worried about, like, I'm fine with it. I want you to laugh. When they start feeling bad for me, I'm like, no, trust me, I'm fine with this. I want you to just hear an experience, and this is how I think it's funny at the end. But they're just like, go back to dick jokes.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, especially, like, I think you just got to, could be, I don't know. I was thinking last night on stage, is really kind of a surreal thought to have, but I tell the machine story every night on stage. And last night I told it, and I thought, I wonder if it would have been smarter for me to not tell this story for another 3 more years so I could get famous and then tell it then. But I was like, maybe it's the story that is the... But
it's the story that's making you famous.
It is a tad bit, yeah. It's like, and I got to be honest with you, it is... Only because people yell it out at my shows, and I want it, and I want them to, and I want to tell it, and I want it. It's a fun story to tell. I like it, and I gotta attribute a lot of that to Rogan, because I would have never told that. A lot of the stories I tell other comics They'd be like, I'd be like, they'd be like, that's a great story. You got to tell it on stage. And I'd always be like, oh, that's not a stage story. I can't tell it on stage. I like a lot of the things like especially the Tracy Morgan story. I just thought that didn't belong on stage. I for one, the reason I never told the Tracy Morgan story on stage, honestly, I'm sure I told you this before, was that I didn't think he'd remember it. And if he did remember it, I didn't think he'd admit it. And if he did say it was a lie, then I would look like a liar for the rest of my fucking life. And I was like, and I got bigger stories than that. I was like, in my head, I was like, I haven't even told you about when I robbed the fucking train. So I felt the same thing with the machine story. I was like, it's not a stage story. I just had written off all these stories to not going on stage. And Rogan's like, no, fuck you. It's a stage story. You tell it. And he was like, everyone yell it out until he tells it. And God bless him for doing that because it's changed my career.
I think it's like, I don't know why I didn't assume this in the beginning. I think it's like jokes. I got to just keep telling them and working them. The more I tell these, it's like, it's dumb. The fact that I'm probably not doing it enough. Like, the first time I tell a story, maybe it doesn't go that good. Then I've scrapped it. But if I start telling a joke, it doesn't go that good. I work on it, and then
it's the exact same thing. And you know what happened to me is I got so confident telling jokes and got so good at writing bits that I could go and take a joke that was brand new and get it up on stage and it would just start working. And I hadn't worked for anything in a while. Yeah. And then that machine story is the first thing I think I've worked for in a long time.
But you'd prefer to tell the stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
See, I love telling the stories, especially when they work. Like, when I tell that roulette story and it works, it's like, oh, this is so...
Yeah.
It's so much better than the fucking... I mean, I like the jokes I wrote, but they're just jokes that stories.
It's like people can take your... Well, I guess people can take your stories as well. But, like, people can take your jokes. You write a joke, and then all of a sudden... someone just uses it.
Well, yeah,
you're like, oh. And then they're like, I thought of the same thing.
Well, you never have to worry about being called hacky. You never have to worry about people stealing. I mean, I guess people still steal them, but we had that happen with this fucking dude stole Jay Larson's story that he told on Conan in Vegas. What? Stole it word for word. Didn't even change the name. It was like a big deal. My buddy Matt Markman he calls me. I blasted this dude on Facebook anyway. This dude was in the Las Vegas Forum, and he's just like, no one's ever really seen him, and he was just like, hey, thinking about getting a manager and agent tomorrow. Any recommendations? And we're just like, and I hit him. I was like, you should probably get Seinfeld, you know. So I didn't like this dude anyway. So then I'm like, are you even a comic? And he puts up this bit, and I didn't even bother watching it. And then my buddy Markman's like, yo, he's doing Jay Larson's bit. And then he hit up Jay, and he was doing Jay Larson's famous like Conan bit that he has it on the Chive and on Conan, I think, with over 1 million hits on that video. He's doing it, doesn't even change the names. Like, he says Jay in it, doesn't even, and does it word for word, and then has the balls to post it online. And then all hell broke loose, and it was like, if you see this guy, then the Las Vegas comedy scene took over. Like, if you see this guy at a fucking show, if he tells that story, walk up, punch him right on stage, just end it.
Holy shit.
And then people like took it down. But that's the thing, you have to call people out like that with fucking...
I have a hard time calling people out.
But you have to, because there's no other way to police it.
Yeah, but
on the internet.
I'll tell you personally, from being a part of something that is similar to what we're talking about right now, it is so much more of a headache. And I know that like anyone else would say, do the right thing, but it's so much of a fucking headache. I had someone recently liberate some of my material, and very recently, and I talked to Segura about it, and I was like, what do I do? And Ian Bagg called me and was like, fucking first thing, he was like, I mean, I've had it happen. I've actually had it happen a bunch of times recently, and I remember Ian tweeted me, so what's the deal? Do we just go through your material and take what we want? But it's like the second I don't want to. It's such a fucking headache, even to just people pick sides and they go, "What comic do I like better?" That's the one I'll side with on this one, and it just is a fucking nightmare. So I just said to myself, "You know what? I'll fucking keep moving forward. Never look behind me. Look forward. I know who my friends are. I know what I want to do. I know what my material is. I don't touch anyone's material. I don't fucking do anyone. I do my material. I write my material. I don't even have other people write material for me because I'm a fucking comic, and that's the way we work. But yeah, it's such a pain in the ass.
Well, I mean, the thing that I have a problem with is that so then the internet kind of took over and just blasted this dude, and then one guy felt bad for him and then deleted it. Which I had a huge problem with. Like, you can't. Okay, this guy is taking some shit, but he deserved this shit, and you have to leave this up to discourage people in the future. You know what I mean? I see what you're at a different. Like you don't need just to deal with drama.
I don't want to deal with anything.
But I think the internet, like these Death Squad guys, when they do it, I think it's good. Someone has to.
Let me tell you something. Look, in my heart, I don't want anyone using anyone's material.
It's just
in my heart.
Fair.
It's not fair. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think there's a lot of things I could say about that are all suspect because it's it's like I'm fucking. I don't. Me jumping into that subject is so fucking explosive, and I'll tell you off air what is going on. Also, that you'll go shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
But I do like the internet policing people. I do like people fucking saying, I don't like people taking material. I don't like comics getting writers. I don't like comics. I like comics.
Someone said the other day that's like taking steroids.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Do the fucking material. Be the great comic. Don't fucking have dudes write your shit.
I'll tell you the one thing, and I see you don't want drama, but the one thing that, and Peter Berman, or the comic said to me, and a couple of comics have said it, like I get in these internet fights sometimes about comedy, but because I love it and I'm passionate about it. And you should get like that thing that Kyle Cease did. It's just, and that's
what was that
when he ran that scam fucking.
Oh, yeah.
But he was charging people $5,000. Now I meet comics on the road that paid that.
Yeah.
Anyone that takes advantage of a young comic, I hate it because we're all supposed to in some weird way.
It's unfair because young comics are just like any sucker you'd see in 1950 on a used car lot. Like they just want success, they want acceptance, they want approval, they want to get to the next level, they want to be included, and they want to be a part of the team. And to take advantage of a young comic is you're a bad person.
It's the worst, and I will fight it. And I'm
not making a statement on Kyle because I love Kyle. I know Kyle. I've known him for a long time. I don't know I've never really talked to him about any of that stuff that he did. Like I've never talked to him about any of it. But I would be very candid and I'd say this to Kyle. When I saw it, I was suspect.
Yeah, well, if you like
what
him,
the fuck?
If you like him, you'd never want to hear these stories because the stories. We don't even want to talk about them. It's just a fucking. I just think it's a shitty thing to do, and that's why I have no. I mean, LA is everyone's just wonderful, which I get, but on some of this shit, when it comes to comedy, I think we have to police it ourselves, and everyone has to fucking.
Yeah.
When someone's doing something shitty, no matter who it is. Someone has to say, "Hey, man, you can't be doing that shit."
There is a comic karma that happens, I mean, I don't know. I think you start weeding out the bad people, and then you start hanging out with the good people, and then all of a sudden you're surrounded by the right people and people that care about you and care about what you do. And I think comedy ends up.
Yeah,
that boat rights itself. That boil ends up popping. I think.
No, I agree that it'll always. I mean, eventually you can't only do so many tricks. Eventually, you're just not fucking funny,
dude.
And everyone knows it,
and you disappear.
Yeah,
and you fucking disappear. If you are, and this is the only thing I'll say about me. If you are someone who is inspired to write and perform their own original material, I think I will keep working because of it. And there are people that just don't know how to write, only know how to kill, only know that is what they need. They're just going to disappear.
It's what we talked about that night at the Improv, and you talked about it a little, I'm sure, already, about guys that aren't comics just coming in being comics. And it's just a blatant disrespect for a craft. This is our craft, and it's a hobby to you.
No one would ever do it. No one would ever do it on the flip side. Like, it would never happen. Like, it would never reverse itself where you're like a I don't know, I can't even do an analogy, but you're right. It is the disrespect that you get as a comic.
If you went and sang at an open mic, you would never change your Facebook status to like singer. You would still say, "I work at Best Buy."
Yeah.
But if you do one open mic for some reason, it's funny, and I'm sure I probably.
I was talking to Stroop about it. Stroop was saying that he was like, I have these people come in that are not necessarily comedians, but they're on my stage in my club's a comedy club. He goes, I really want to call it something else. Call it like an evening with, as opposed to stand-up comedy, because he goes, it's disrespecting what you do. He's like, you're a comic. Like anyone that comes in on that stage is a comic, but you do have famous people that are, are famous for other reasons. And there are people that I respect that are trying to figure out the craft, and I respect that. But don't look. look, we got face tattoos. We're fucking comics. Like, we will always be comics. We can always sit at a fucking airport bar and bullshit about comedy. Me, you, Orny Adams, even Kyle Cease, we're all fucking comics. I'm sorry, Orny. I only use Orny because I ran into him at DFW the other day. But, like, we're all comics, so, like, I didn't want Orny to think I was shitting on him. But, so that is the one thing that you'll always have is that fucking badge of honor. So I told Leanne we're driving, and we were talking about, like, what's going on with my career, and I finished the book, and are you proud? And I said, you know, the thing I'm the most proud of out of anything is the fact that I'm a stand-up comedian and that I've earned it, and that for the rest of my life, I will always be known as a comedian.
It's awesome. I go through it every day. Not every day, but whenever I have a bad day. I mean, I live right in the fucking middle of Hollywood. I'm a kid from Wyoming. I'm a stand-up comedian that lives in Hollywood, California. Like, you're one of my favorite comics. I'm sitting here drinking, doing a podcast with you. I wake up tomorrow. I go to Cabo for a week of comedy in Cabo. Like,
wait, who are you working with down there?
It's a Cabo Comedy Festival.
Steve Grove booking it?
No, some other dude. But everyone, I mean, Ari, there's like 80. It's
shut up. I fucking know exactly what this is. Oh my God, I was going to do that.
Yeah, so I fly out tomorrow. And
shit.
I have one.
That guy hit me up.
He's great.
That's going to be fun as fuck.
It's going to be
Who's
awesome.
Down there?
Man, there's Ari, Ben Glebe, Nikki Glazer. There's a bunch of like old school, but then there's like legendary comics. Ahmed Ahmed. I'm trying to think who else is on it. Yeah, and I only have one show. I have a show, I think Thursday, but they're like you can fly in on Tuesday, and you can stay the whole time. Room, board, food, everything's free. We just, they're treating comics like. So like today, as I was walking up Runyon, I'm like, this shit is fucking crazy.
Dude, that is going to be so much fucking fun. I love Nikki Glazer.
Yeah, she's fucking.
I love Nikki, Ari, Ahmed. Dude, there's a
bunch more.
Jealous.
I'm not even. I mean, it's a list. It's like I want to say like 100.
He offered me to go down there, and I was like, I can't. I'm working. I'm doing trip flip. And he was like, but I was like, it was like a back and forth. But none of my agents replied, so only I replied, and I was like, so when you tell him that I regret not being there. Distinctly, I couldn't do it still, but.
I think it'll be cool.
Fucking fun.
But yeah, just shit like that.
Everyone's got podcasts down there.
Yeah,
I'm doing Ari's?
I'm doing Ari's. Ari's doing mine. We're doing that. That's what I'm looking forward to. We'll probably do back and forth. And I'm trying to get Kevin Pollak. He's there.
Really?
There's a bunch of.
Kevin Pollak was one of the nicest guys. I worked with him in Tampa, and he was like a regular guy. And he told me he was like you curse a lot. You don't need to. I think you're funny. I'm not saying don't curse on my shows. I'm just telling you, in the future, you don't need to curse as much. And I was like, that was really fucking cool that he didn't, like, he wasn't telling me, like, hey, clean it up, asshole. Because he in essence, he did tell me that. Because I never fucking curse on the on the rest of the shows. I was like, spick and span. Like, but he was a cool fucking dude.
You know what's so funny? Me and my roommate had that talk today when we were walking home. Comics, if you tell them not to do something, it's the first thing they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But the way he handled it, he told you essentially without saying it.
He was like, "Listen, man, like I'll give you notes," and I was in my head, I was like, "Oh, I get notes," and he was like, "Oh yeah, of course, we're comics." And he was like, "Yeah," he broke me down, and I was like, "Oh, he's right," and I didn't curse the rest of the week. That was the same week I decided to ask my wife to marry me.
That's awesome.
I was at the fucking beach in Clearwater in chest high water with my dad, and I was like, I think I'm gonna marry this chick. And then I bought the ring, flew home, ring got delivered. The day it got delivered, I found out she was pregnant, and I was like, oh, I'm fucked. How do I know I want to be with her forever?
Were you nervous?
Oh, dude.
You know the thing I always like to ask people, when you had to ask her dad, was that nerve-wracking or
no? I actually told her dad she was pregnant first.
And then
because we found out she was pregnant, and we were like, what do we do? And we're like, well, and I hadn't asked her to marry me yet. I had the ring. I had bought the ring, and it was delivered to L.A. and I hid it in her boot. I don't know why I hid it.
Why would you?
Because I was going on the road for like 12 days, and I hid it in her boot. I didn't tell anyone I was going to ask her to marry me. Like, I went on the road, and then they delivered these 2 beer koozies that said Heyman's Jewelers on it. And I kept the beer koozies out. I was like, ooh, keep these. So I left, and my wife came home, and I was in New York. She goes, what's Heyman's Jewelers? And I was like, motherfucker. I was like, those are nothing. Don't look in your boots. She was like, what? And so then, but we already knew she was pregnant. And so I came home, and then I think I want to say I called her dad. I must have called her dad on the phone. Maybe I did. I don't know. He's in the. Did you see him when you came
I
in?
didn't see him.
He's here.
When did you know? Like, what's the day like when you decided?
She dumped me. We dated for like 4 months, and then she dumped me. And then when she dumped me, I'll never forget. I can tell you, because I was running on Outpost back to my apartment, back to my house. I had a house over by Hollywood and Highland, up in the hills, and I was running on Outpost. And I said I want her back, and I did everything I could to get her back. I made her like a mixtape. I was a fucking idiot. And I was jogging on Outpost, and I remember saying, I have a special relationship with the Lord. Whoever it is that runs the show up there, I definitely talk to him. I call him God. And I remember saying, God, this is it. This is the one. If you give me her back, I will definitely marry her. And I ran back. I took a shower, and she showed up at my house. And I was like, fucking, I'm in. And so we decided.
But wait, she broke up with you, but then still showed up at your house?
She showed up at my house because I'd like made her a mixtape, and I had like fucking tried to call her, and she had taken like 4 days. She wouldn't speak to me, and then she showed up at my house that day. And I remember when she showed up, I was like, "Holy shit, I think he's listening." And then we went on a couple dates like after that to try to like get back into together, and we were on the beach in Malibu one night, just sitting on the beach, and I was like, I remember it was like that on the fence, like, fuck, this is it. If this is it, this is it. And I was like, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. And I was like, done. And I distinctly, but then, and then we moved in together, and I knew I was going to ask her to marry me, and I got the ring. But then when I found she was pregnant, I still had doubt. I was like, fuck, there's a lot of things happening really quick. Like, just like any fucking meathead would think. And, but yeah, I've never cheated on her. That is the biggest statement. 10 years.
That's awesome.
Never
Especially
cheated on her.
in this business.
And not that I'd be on this podcast like, no, I cheat on her all the time. But
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah, never cheated on her. Never really wavered. She's a really cool fucking chick.
Oh, I think it's. I listen to podcasts all the time. I think it's cool how you talk about
She's a fucking great chick, and she's the reason I am, and I'm not anywhere. But the reason I am where I am, and I'm not anywhere. But I would be even worse if I hadn't had her. She just is like super takes care of me. Like fucking just an awesome fucking girl. I say girl, it's an insult, I'm sure, to some fucking feminist. I called someone honey the other day, and she got fucking pissed off. And I went, I don't know your name. What am I supposed to call you? Like. So
she got pissed. Where were you?
It's a fucking long story.
Oh,
long story. I'll tell you all about it off air. She got really pissed. I'll tell you all about it because it'll be really interesting when you do see it. All right, we should probably wrap this up. We're at 2 hours and change.
Oh yeah,
2 hours and 5 minutes. You have anything to plug?
Yeah, my podcast.
What's your podcast?
The 31.
Who do you do it with?
Me.
Just you?
Yeah. Well, I want to have you, but it's each week it's different. I do 25 of the same questions. So, like, if you're my guest, there's 25 questions I do the same each week, and then 5 for you, and then 1 internet question.
Really?
And they're great.
Holy shit! I got to do your podcast.
Yeah, I would love to. I brought all my stuff, but I figured we wouldn't have time. But it's cool because I've spent like 2 months really working on the questions, so I think the questions are really unique, and I've got 5 episodes, and I'm honestly really proud of them because I think they're different.
Who have you had on?
Sickler, Larson, Jeff Dye, Andrew Slater, Jeff Keith. But I have
Jeff Keith.
Coming up, I have Ari, Segura, Brian Regan. Hopefully, Brandon Flowers, lead singer of the Killers, is my buddy in Vegas.
Yeah.
I think Brad Garrett's going to do it. So I just have to. The funny thing is, when I approach people, I say I do an interview show because fucking when you say podcast to people now, they're like, oh, another podcast.
Yeah.
But everyone loves it. I mean, if you like podcasts, it's very. I think it's very. It's very unique.
Well, I wish I'd known that. I would have cut this podcast short by an hour and done yours. Right now, I'm drunk.
We'll do it another time, but yeah. It's fun. I think you'll like it because it's hard to do these. So the questions kind of just lead, like a question would be, who do you owe an apology to? What's the weirdest thing your uncle's ever done? Have you ever been arrested? What'd you do on your 21st birthday? So it's always
those are fucking great questions.
I spent months just practicing on people and weeding out what's good. There's a lot I think that you'll have some interesting answers for.
Oh, I got to do it. What?
Yeah.
Like I'm around all week if you want to try to do it.
I got to go to Cabo tomorrow, but anytime you can, we'll.
But like I said, I'm back in 2 weeks. and I think I'm home for like a week.
Yeah, I'll call
So
you.
let's
I'll
do
be
it.
right
I'd
over.
love to do your
Yeah.
podcast.
I think you'll. It's fun. So, and like I said, I got.
Now I got to listen to your podcast.
Yeah,
you already got those posted.
Well, yeah, and Sickler tells, and he puts a disclaimer. He goes, he tells an amazing Tracy Morgan story.
Really?
He goes, it's not as good as.
Holy shit! What's his Tracy Morgan story?
Oh, it's crazy. I'll let you listen to
I'll
it.
fucking
Let me
listen to
tease
it.
it. Let me
What's-
tell your
yeah.
listeners, go. It's called, it's at 31 Podcast on Twitter, or follow me at Brandt Tobler, and the podcast is called The 31, and it's on iTunes.
31. I'm
yeah.
going to listen to Ryan Sickler's Tracy Morgan
You'll
story.
love it. It's fucking.
Holy shit!
It's and he, like I said, he says it's not as good as Bert's, but it's a close second.
Fucking, I love
And
Sickler.
Steve Simone has a close third one, but I haven't had him on yet. I don't know if
Really?
you know that one.
No.
Ever since you told me that story, I've been fascinated. Anytime I meet a comic from New York, I'm like, hey, come on, you got a Tracy Morgan story?
There's always I've heard some good ones. I've heard some good ones.
Oh, Butch Bradley has a great one too.
Really?
Yeah. No one can beat yours, but they're all. He never disappoints. He's Tracy.
Tony Woods was with me that night that happened, and he texted me and he's like, "Hey," like he's in Australia. He's like, "Some motherfucker in Australia is telling our Tracy Morgan story." Some dude fucking just on stage. I'm sure heard it and was like, "Fuck it. What are the odds those guys are here?" And just told it, and Tony Woods fucking put him on blast. Was like, "Fuck you, man."
That's crazy.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. So
Hey, so
find
at
it.
the 31.
The 31 on iTunes. Go find it.
Any dates coming up?
Yeah, I'm Cabo
I'm
this
posting
week.
this next week.
Okay, I'm in the comedy festival and Big Sky Comedy Festival in Billings, and then I'm in Phoenix, and then I'm in Vegas. It's all on my website, BrandtTobler.com.
Okay, and the only thing I have to plug everyone, DC in October. I don't know the exact dates, but it's like the third week in October, I think. Washington, DC, and I'm shooting trip flips, so I'm looking for travelers. So if you see me with the film crew, just say yes. Hey, Brent, thank you for doing this,
Yeah,
man. I
thanks.
appreciate
My
it.
pleasure, man.
It's good. It's good hanging out again. I feel like we haven't fucking hung
you're
out.
very busy. So.
I know. I wish we could work together again.
One of these times.
But apparently I don't have a show on MTV. So.
No, any time I'll be there.
All right, thanks, man.
This episode was brought to you by The Machine.